period, we had 4 pedestrian-related collisions compared to 11 in 2016. So we were down for the 28-day period overall for pedestrians. So we were happy about that. 1 is always too many, but we are working hard to make sure that pedestrians are safe out on the road. So we're seeing things going in the right trend, so we're happy about that. And we're going to continue to press pedestrian safety. We were up in summonses. We wrote a total of, for 2017, 8,175 summonses compared to 7,729 in 2016. So we were up by over 400 summonses for 2017. So the traffic safety team as well as patrol officers were really out there writing summonses in key targeted areas like on Broadway, on Columbus Avenue. We had our speed corridor on Central Park West where we targeted a great deal, Riverside Drive. So those are a lot of the areas that we were really targeting. Along 96th Street, 97th Street as well. So those are areas that we always stay focused on to make sure that pedestrians stay safe.
Officer, I'm sorry. You keep saying, Captain, you keep saying it's compared to 2016. You mean 2017? Yes.
No, this is last year's 2017.
Compared to 2016.
Are we in 2018?
Yeah, but they don't.
We're looking at November of 2017.
November. Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm going over end of year numbers, being that we're just starting 2018. There's really no comparison yet.
Really thought you'd be up to the minute.
So that's a good question, though. Not to confuse anyone, I'm just going by the end of year numbers, 2017 compared to 2016, because there's really nothing to compare yet, being that we're just starting the new year in 2018.
Captain?
Yes, sir.
Can you, on the summonses, would you have a breakdown between moving violations and parking tickets? Or
Yes. So to finish up on the moving summonses, we were up by over 400, so they were out there really working hard. Compared to parking summonses, now just as a before I talk about the parking summonses, we were really concentrating our efforts more so on the moving summonses, which we call our B summonses, for the latter part of the year, because we wanted to really, what we found in the research is that if we concentrate on the moving vehicles, especially like with pedestrian-related safety, we can have more of an impact if we wrote more of moving violations of B summonses compared to the parking. I'm not saying that we don't write the parking, but we do, but we really were concentrating our efforts on moving summonses.
And how many of those are speeding tickets?
We wrote a total of 876 speeding summonses in 2017 compared to 459 in 2016. So we were over by, we wrote over by 417. So we really increased our number of speed summonses in 2017, which we saw in our reduction of our pedestrian-related collisions in the last 3 months.
Does that include the summonses issued as a result of the speed cameras? Or those totally separate?
No, that's separate.
Are you able to let us know, or do you know if any particular location has multiple accidents at it, so it's something that perhaps we could look at in a more detailed way?
Yes, I can get that information to you. Just off the top of my head, the areas that we constantly take a look at is 97th Street, Columbus, 96 Broadway, Amsterdam, 96 West End Avenue, 96. The whole 96th Street corridor, we really concentrate on because that's where we get a lot of our collisions and our complaints.
Question for you. I get a lot of complaints from neighbors on West End Avenue that there's a lot of speeding at night and people trying to get out of the city. They're flying up West End Avenue like it's a speedway, and I myself see that all the time. And in the morning, there is so much confusion because people run the lights, the streets get clogged as a result, so people are beeping and beeping. This starts at about 7 in the morning and goes to about 8:30. It is really very disruptive. And it's also dangerous because kids are trying to cross the street to get to the school at 96th Street. They're crossing from West End to one side to the other. Elderly people are out there, nannies are out there. and they have to kind of weave through the trucks and the cars. And we have tons of trucks on West End that don't belong, and tons of buses. So if you can do anything, you probably get roses from people on West End Avenue.
And I'll definitely talk to my traffic team to look at that area some more. But we do. There's also been a lot of, well, not a lot, but there's been some construction also on West End Avenue. So we've been looking at that and trying to enforce those those areas along West End Avenue as well as Riverside Drive, because there's a lot of sometimes we get speed on Riverside Drive that we concentrate on as well.
People get stuck and they wait, and then they get angry because they've been stuck and waiting, and then they just floor it the minute they've got a green light, and it really is dangerous.
We will look into that.
I thank you.
Captain, on the speeding question, has enforcement changed at all since the speed limit went from 30 to 25? So are you ticketing cars for going a certain number of miles per hour above the speed limit? Or is there a threshold that's still the same threshold before and after the change?
Well, I mean, obviously, yes, the change in the speed limit has affected because people.
Like, do you ticket at 30 now? What's the lowest you'll ticket of these 800 tickets? Do you know?
Each officer is their own discretion. Some officers will write it for 2 miles over. Some feel more comfortable writing it for 10 miles over. It's all on the officer and their discretion on how they feel comfortable testifying to the summons in court.
So of the
But with that also, I mean, obviously, if we're writing the summons, it's because the person or the driver is driving at a rate of speed that's obviously well above that 25 mile per hour limit. So it's usually they're well above that.
And have you looked at whether the average or the low has gone down at all? I'm basically asking, is there any impact of the lowering of the speed limit?
It's a good question. That's something
Is that something you could look at the data and let us know about?
Yeah, we'll have to.
That'd be great.
Data and get back to, but I'm sure that the lowering of the speed limit has helped substantially.
Are you using speed cameras to detect speeders?
Yes.
So every officer has those?
Yes. When we do the speed summons, they are equipped with the speed cameras.
So it looks like it's about.
Isaac's been waiting.
Well, can I just finish my? It looks like we've gone from a little more than 1 speeding ticket a day, 459 in 2016, to a little more than 2 a day now. And I actually have a little speed gun I've taken out to Riverside. In 10 minutes, I'll see 5 cars going 40 miles an hour. One thing that I think your predecessor had mentioned to us was that very few officers are trained to give speeding tickets. Do you know how many officers in the 24th precinct are trained?
We actually increased the training for.
That's great.
For them to get that training for the
yeah.
The later.
So it was like 2 or 3 before. Do you know how many it is now?
I don't know the exact. I know that in terms of the new, because I know some people just recently got trained. But we were we had at least 12 to 15 people that were trained in the light.
That's right.
That's increasing.
Isaac's been waiting.
40 miles an hour.
Excuse me.
I just wonder if you could go 40 miles.
Excuse me.
First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody bombarding these questions. You guys are doing an outstanding job. I think all of the data and everything that you do is great. I really appreciate it. The only thing that I have a concern about is, and you mentioned the main streets court, especially 96 and 97, from Broadway to Amsterdam and Columbus, people are running red lights. That's my question. Okay. I know
96, Isaac?
with 96 in Amsterdam, they do it after, I'm going to say after 11 a.m. And then especially at night after 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. They refuse to wait. And especially after the light has turned red. It's like they really don't care. Well, that's my only concern. Everything else you guys are doing great. I really appreciate it. But when you have kids and you have families out there, and these guys are actually running the red lights, that's a little bit concerning. And they don't stop.
But you're talking about running the light on 96, right? East-west.
On 96 in Columbus, Broadway, they will run the red. The light is red, and I've seen one car that was in the right-hand lane. The light was already red. He drove past. He came down the right-hand lane with the traffic on the left side and ran through the light to make a turn to go on Amsterdam. And he looked dead at me. I was standing right there in the corner. His windows weren't tinted or anything. He looked dead at me like it's no big deal. So that's the only thing.
No, I'll definitely look into it.
Yes, that's right. Other than that, you guys are doing a great job. I really appreciate it.
Dave?
And Sergeant Hudson knows that I'm going to ask this question. You know, what you mentioned is that you concentrate on Central Park West and Riverside, or Riverside and West End. However, the trucks are on Amsterdam and Columbus and Broadway. And I think, as this young lady pointed out,
I'm sorry, not to cut. I meant as a speed corridor.
I know.
In terms of where we see a lot of because it's not as much commercial traffic, like along Riverside Drive, because on Broadway, Columbus, and Amsterdam, you have a lot more commercial businesses, so you have a lot more trucks.
you usually drive very quickly.
Yes. No, I don't know. I was saying it was just the reason why I was mentioning those particular, like Riverside Drive, because we've seen it. Those been historically like the main speed corridors, so that's why we've been concentrating on those. Not like we're not neglecting those areas as well. We are in those areas as well. So.
Well, that's why I always ask Sergeant Thompson for a breakdown of how many tickets were given to commercial vehicles versus how many tickets were given to private vehicles.
Try to get that information. I'm sorry.
So I'm wondering if you have a breakdown of bicycle pedestrian collisions in terms of bicycles going the wrong way on one-way streets, bicycles riding on the sidewalk, delivering people as opposed to regular cyclists. Is there any kind of breakdown within this bike pedestrian?
I don't have that information. I would have to do a
great. No, is that those statistics?
I would have to look at based off of in terms of what collisions occurred and what summonses were written, and to see do more of analysis to give you that information. What I can say is though is that we did increase the amount of bicycle summonses over the last 28-day period, 56-day period, and we have been concentrating.
You can't tell where I live.
It's a lot more bicycles on the road. I understand
but going
that.
the wrong way on Amsterdam Avenue, for example. Always delivering people, especially, and then bikes on the sidewalk as well, and e-bikes on the sidewalk.
Yes.
It's really dangerous.
If I could just mention a little bit about like
Can I
e-bikes.
follow up on her question? It's just,
Can I get a name? I'm sorry. Your name? Judy Holter.
you said there are 229 injuries in 2017. How many of those were caused by cars versus alternative forms of transportation? Because that's what matters, it's injury.
Well, in terms, we break it down by, we had in terms of injury collisions, like I said, 229, but injuries in regards to like vehicles, of that nature, was 290.
298. I thought you said the total was 229.
Well, the way it's broken down, you look at overall injury, like if there's a collision and then there's an injury, we have that breakdown. And then we have, if there's occupants in the vehicle, it's calculated that way as well. So that number may be substantially higher than the injury.
So is it 229 injuries and 298?
Can I finish? So of the 229, how many were caused by, I just want to get a sense of what percentage were caused by vehicles? Of the 229 pedestrian injuries.
That I don't have right now. I'll have to get back to that number.
So just to clarify, that's a combined number for bikes and cars.
Yeah, that's all
Well,
combined.
that's 12 pedestrians.
Yeah.
So those are all pedestrian injuries, because that's, to be frank, that's the number I'm most concerned with. I think most people should be doing you're injured on the street, what caused it?
Right.
You know,
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. I'll definitely get that information.
One other comment. I think one of the things that's most frustrating is I know you guys are doing what you're supposed to be doing, but if you stand at 96th Broadway and the traffic is really heavy and you watch the traffic enforcement agent, standing there, not doing anything, and talking to each other or having a coffee and it's chaotic, they really need better training. I don't know if that's all comes from your thing where the traffic enforcement agents are another silo.
You mean the traffic enforcement agents assigned to that area?
Yeah.
And they do not appreciate my nasty comments.
They don't appreciate my time.
No one does.
It's like, why did you let that guy do it?
That would be my nasty comment.
So,
That would be nice.
who's responsible?
That I will have to, the traffic fall under the Department of Transportation.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
would
frustrating.
reach out to them.
Your job is easier and they can do it now.
You started to do a further explanation on the e-bikes, I believe.
Well, yeah, we are gonna be concentrating a lot more on e-bikes in 2018. In 2017, we confiscated approximately 38 e-bikes, which we would like to do more in that area. One of the things that we're looking at doing, I want to make sure that my traffic safety team, when we do conduct these operations, that it's being done properly. So we reached out to our legal bureau, the YPD. They're going to be coming out with us on some of our operations to ensure that, because there's certain variables when you talk about e-bikes. What type of bike is it? Is it throttle based? Is it pedal assisted based? So there's a lot of variables there. So we want to make sure that when we do it, that it's done properly. We're actually doing an operation this week that we're setting up with our legal bureau to come out and doing a joint operation. That's following. We'll make sure that it's done. That it's done properly.
On the e-bike question, do you have any sense of how many crashes are caused by them or how many crashes they're involved in? That's something, we're hearing both sides of e-bikes that, people are screaming they're dangerous. Are they? Have the data shown that that's the case?
Based on what we see from listening to the public and complaints of based on collisions, yeah, they are pretty dangerous. I mean,
on which one? On complaints or on collisions? Are you seeing a lot of collisions with e-bikes?
Well, we're not seeing a lot of collisions with e-bikes. Just bikes, we've seen some with the bikes, but in terms of e-bikes, we're not seeing a lot with e-bikes. But it's still a concern because you talk about a motorized vehicle, which it can go at high rates of speed, which is an issue for pedestrian safety.
Yeah.
So it's something we take very seriously, and we're looking to move forward and doing more in 2018.
So you are now licensed to confiscate e-bikes,
Yes.
Both private and delivery e-bikes, I assume.
Yes. And again, there's so many different variables. That's why we want to make sure that we're doing it right, so that we're working with our legal bureau to.
It's a definitional question. What is an e-bike? Is it the kind of bike that I don't know much about this. There's a pedal assist, I understand, and there's like a moped.
So it's considered a motorized vehicle type scooter, and you have, correct me if I'm wrong, you have two different versions of one where it's just a throttle, and
So it's like a motorcycle.
Right.
A motorcycle.
and then there's one where it's kind of more deceptive because it has the pedals, so you cannot use the motorized version. You can just pedal, but then if it gets tired, you can not pedal and then just use the
What
throttle.
they call pedal assist.
Right, that's like a pedal assist, but they're both illegal.
Okay, they're both illegal.
Both illegal. Some of this can be written.
It looks like a regular bike, but if you look closely, there's a motor on there.
Some of this can be written to the bicyclist or to the business, and that's where we're looking to work with our legal bureau to see how to when we target the businesses. Yes, sir. Trying to understand your question, sir.
Are resources being diverted from regular enforcement to e-bike enforcement?
No.
No.
So where are the extra resources coming from?
Well, when we do these enforcement initiatives, we have our traffic safety team in command, and then we do get assistance from patrol in their regular duties. When they're on patrol, they're told to look out for these particular violations and they write summonses to assist the traffic safety team.
Question? Yeah. So, about
Yeah.
Then you're.
How do you know if this is working? Please your name. Or in what way will you know if this is successful?
In terms of overall collisions or overall injury collisions?
I mean, what is the metric that you're looking for?
Well, obviously, we look to see based off of previous year, looking at our figures from previous periods, whether it be from the previous year or we go by our 28-week period to kind of gauge, whether or not we have more collisions or less collisions, or if we have more injuries or less injuries, and we go by that gauge.
The expectation that by focusing on e-bikes, the number of injuries to pedestrians will drop, lower.
Yeah, we're looking, e-bikes and bikes overall, just to by concentrating, because these are motorized vehicles. And just think of it as also as a vehicle.
I know.
And no, I'm just trying to make the analogy. If we're able to control and at least kind of minimize or mitigate the amount of e-bikes out there on the road, we're hoping to kind of decline or see a decline in pedestrian injuries as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is just my perspective. New York City is a high step with other global cities and how they're often e-bikes. New York City is not. But I'm just trying to get a sense for the baseline. Last year was 229 pedestrians injured.
No.
Did I misunderstand?
Yeah, no. Last year, total there were 74 pedestrians.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. But the goal is that number will drop by focusing on e-bikes.
Well, not just e-bikes, but that's just one area. We're looking to focus on, obviously bicycles, e-bikes, vehicles, controlling, the speed of vehicles. That's why we do the speed summonses. That's why we do red light summonses. All these things factor in trying to reduce pedestrian-related injuries. We look at everything universally as a whole to look at pedestrian injury. And I think it's working. I mean, we were down. Reports have shown that pedestrian-related fatalities were down in 2017, 101 compared to, I believe, 184 in 2016. So we're moving in a direction. We just want to look at all areas to make sure that people are safe.
Yes, go ahead. Yeah, I'm David Olszewski. I'm here from the Tennis Association on the West Side of the Western District. And that's our biggest complaint. Really glad if somebody broke the ice and started talking to bikes and bicycles on the street. By far, in my building, my neighborhood, the biggest complaint is bicycles on the sidewalk. And when I called the 2-4, they said that they could only ticket somebody if the officer sees somebody riding an e-bike on the street. So I went to McDonald's office because there were a couple of places on the cottage in particular that were riding the e-bikes flying down the street. So they contacted those companies, wrote them letters, called them. I'm still not clear. My understanding is that they're legal to have, but there's no enforcement. Like we went over to a restaurant right now and we saw the e-bikes in front of the restaurant. Would we be able to confiscate them? Because when I called and said, "You got all these e-bikes coming from the cottage," the response was no.
Well, let me just point out that we have more work to do in that area. And we're looking to target that in 2018 with the e-bikes specifically. That's why we reached out to our legal bureau for assistance, and we are looking to make more of an effort although we did confiscate quite a few last year, we realize that there's more that needs to be done in that area, and we're looking to do that in 2018. Obviously, based off of what I've heard, and I've heard this from previous talk to the community about bicyclists and e-bikes on the sidewalks and maybe going in the wrong direction. We're out there, we try to catch them the best way we can, but sometimes, not to make an excuse, it is difficult at times, but we are out there targeting them, and we're looking to do a better effort in 2018.
All right, so if there's a particular organization, whatever restaurant that's riding on the sidewalk, like call you guys and say, look, these guys are riding on the sidewalks, I don't even care about the whole e-bike versus regular bikes, just being on the sidewalk. What do you guys do? Do you call them? Do you react to that complaint in any way, shape, or form?
Well, we would like to observe the violation, because that will only make the enforcement effort that much greater. But any intelligence or information that we get from the community, we see that there's a particular business or location that is in clear violation, or they're supporting these type of these motorbikes or vehicles, please let us know, and we will come out and take action.
Yeah, because they have to be out of here by 8, so we want to have the open vote. Yeah. Right. Right. Sergeant Montgomery.
Good evening. My name is Sergeant Montgomery. I'm the traffic sergeant in the 20th precinct. I'm going to give you a breakdown of 2017 versus 2016. In the 20th precinct, we had 1,867 collisions versus 1910, down 43 for a decrease of 2.3%. Total injuries, we were slightly up by 11, which was 279 versus 268 for 11, up 4%. In regards to occupant injuries, we had a total of 201 occupant injuries. Pedestrian injuries, 86. We were down 27% with pedestrians this year. And we had a slight increase in bicycle accidents, 58 versus 46 for 12. In regards to the occupant injuries, I broke it down a little bit further because I've been working on this for all week. Out of the 201 injuries, 139 of them came from collisions with taxis. As we all know, taxi cabs, passengers are not required to wear seatbelts. So when I look at my accidents that involve taxi cabs or yellow cabs, green cabs, liberty cabs, the black car services, if there's 4 people sitting in the back and it's a slight tap and no dents to the car, everyone is going to the hospital. And so that's where I saw an increase in our overall injuries, is because everyone in the cab is going to the hospital. Recently, now cab drivers are required to wear the seatbelt, which is a good thing, but still passengers are not required by law to put the seatbelt on. And in regards to our enforcement areas, the 20th precinct is up 12% with hazardous violations. We wrote 10,226, so it's 9,066. Total neighbors, we wrote 10,742 versus 9,838. People ask where the increase may come from. The 20 precinct last year started with 117 officers. We ended the year with 134 officers. So we have 4 officers assigned to the 20th precinct. In regards to Delta Hill, we wrote 503 summonses versus 353 summonses. We're up in that category. Speeds, we wrote 872 versus 444. We're up in that category. Also, in regards to bike summonses, we wrote 482 summonses compared to 478. We have a slight increase with that. And also with yellow cabs, and we saw the increase in taxi accidents. We wrote 2,720 summonses compared to 2,087. We were up 30% also. In regards to e-bike confiscations, last year we took a total of 51 e-bikes. In regards to e-bikes, I'll explain this. It's an old summons that's issued, so we gave it to the operator
on the e-bike. Once it's not illegal to have an e-bike, it's illegal to ride one in the city of New York. So you can live in the city and take it to Westchester County, it's no problem. Riding the e-bike in the city is you're in violation. So what we noticed that people that work for, whether it's Uber Eats, eBay, different people that use delivery services, they will go down to Oak. If I take the bike tonight, they go down to Oak, pay the $500 fine. They don't actually go to court. They don't ask for a court date. They pay the $500 fine, and we're mandated to give them the bike back because that's their problem. So a lot of the bikes that we take from the restaurants here, within 2 to 3 hours, if you get it at 9 o'clock, by 8 o'clock at night, they're back in the precinct to pick up their bike. It's their form of doing their job. So it's a $500 fine with it. So I'm just starting to see a lot of people are getting these bikes back. I know someone had asked a question to the council in regards to pedestrian and bikes. Out of the 86 pedestrians that were injured in the 2-0, only 5 of them involved bikes. Out of the 86 pedestrians struck, only 5 involved bikes. Everything else was car, taxi, truck, what have you, but only 5 involved with bicycles. Also, in regards to our bike accidents, we had 58, only 1 of them out of the 58 involved with e-bike. Everything else was a regular bicycles, like bike. And off the top of my head, the only numbers are in my head, we had 17 bicycle accidents where it was the bicycles where they actually hit a pothole and fell off the bike. So that's where the injuries are. There's a lot of times they're not always involved with a vehicle, their own error. 2 bikes hit each other at the vehicle. 4 of those accidents, they're in the same bike lane and they sideswipe each other. One goes to the left, one goes to the right, and they're both coming. Let's see what else. We wrote 342 parking summonses. We had 17 DUI arrests, 129 driving with suspended license. I'm going to break down. Our busiest day for last year was Wednesday with 308 collisions. The busiest corridor was Columbus Avenue with 388. In regards to the times that these accidents occurred, we had 206 on the first platoon, that's from like 11 at night to 8 in the morning. Second platoon, 872, which is 7 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. And the third platoon was 789. In regards to, we have 3 historical locations that I monitor on a daily basis in regards to collisions. One was 81 in CPW. Last year we had 33 collisions. We're actually down about 10% from the previous year, and we wrote 648 moving violations at that intersection. Then we had followed by 7 in Amsterdam. We had 29 collisions, and we wrote 1,463. I'm going to explain that number in a minute. And 66 in CPW, we had 16, and we wrote 516 summonses. The increase of activity at 7 in Amsterdam is because we had 1 bike fatality in the month of November at that location. At this time, the detectives told me that they really can't tell if the bicycle was wrong or the truck. The truck was on an authorized truck route. The bike where the bicycle got struck is not a bike lane. It's kind of solved in 7 seconds.
And like we asked, Catherine, you can get us repeat locations where
I monitor the location on a daily basis. So, like I know those are not historical locations, but I monitor it every time to see
from
where
your
we have.
from your data, can you tell what direction an accident occurred?
I would have to look through every single accident that was all there in north, south, down, west, down.
So you
that's
actually
kind
have
of,
that data, right?
we don't, I don't track that data, but it's on the collision report. So.
So I have a general question, comment, and you don't need to respond right now, but what we're hearing is there's still hundreds and hundreds of injuries a year on our streets. And if anything else were happening, if there were this many food poisonings, this many stabbings, the neighborhood would be completely up in arms. And because it's road injuries, it's something that we largely just accept. And it's something that we as a board decide, our number one priority is to try to reduce the number of injuries, the number of fatalities on our streets for the transportation community. And one frustration I've had is we largely are working in a vacuum. None of us is an enforcement expert. None of us is a street design expert. We hear a lot from the community. We have some say with elected officials, with government agencies. Question number one, how can we better work together? And what more can we do to help you? And what ways are there that we might be able to partner in trying to drive this number down in a significant way? And again, you don't need to answer now. It's something we'd love, really, really appreciate that you're here. To the extent that we can help you, it's something we'd love to be able to do. And anything that we're able to do and work together would be great. We've done a lot of data analysis ourselves. Question we have, it's beginning of January, what should we be doing in 2018? What street design changes would be most effective? What calls for enforcement might help? Where might you need help in getting more officers trained with radar or doing anything else? How can we partner better? So I hope that's an ongoing conversation, not an answer for right now, but we'd really
We're
love
always
to.
looking for to work with the community.
That's great.
Input from the community. That's the only way that we can really come together to solve these issues. So to have that collaboration with the community, because you may see things, we see things, we don't see everything. We need the eyes of the community to assist us.
In fact, and one of the things that we have been asking DOT for, which is got fixed yet, is to change the traffic signal at 97th and West End and 96th and West End, so that somebody that makes the right going west on 97 and turning south and then trying to speed over to 96 to get onto the highway cannot make that next right, which would reduce the need to speed. You can't do that. There's no reason to speed between 97 and 96. We haven't been able to get here to do that fix yet, but I think that would help the statistics greatly. That's one of those corridors that you were talking about.
And more broadly, if there are things you're seeing that could, I know you have channels into DOT, but if we can help you with that, we'd love to join forces and try to really push for the street design changes that are going to most have an impact on driving that number down.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think weren't there some initial changes needed? The additional changes.
There was a change made, but not this particular thing.
Not this specific. Okay.
I see a lot of people walking. Amazing. Some of them are, but some of them just sit in space and then start walking. Is there anything we can do to help those people? I know that you also say if I have a religion at a specific location, then it could be like this, the best is what the location, my ability to go out and go out for this particular 17, and it's an easy to say,
Oh, yeah. But she couldn't hear me.
I was just saying that I see pedestrians in certain corners just aimlessly walking across the street with oncoming traffic.
We could put up signs that say, "Don't walk aimlessly." How's that?
Well,
They
yeah,
don't get their heads up to look at them.
This woman in the back.
Yeah, in the back.
My name is Les Carpentry, and I run fall prevention programming in New York City, and also on the Falls Prevention Coalition in New York City. And what I hear all the time from seniors is that they're really frightened of, walking across the street, bicycling, not being able to catch cabs and things.
being afraid of being hit by other people. And I just wonder if there's more awareness that could be brought up, maybe working with climate aging or Vision Zero, and trying to get more, more help for older adults in our community. Everybody needs it, but especially that population. And is there, I know the questions are asking me, I'm always saying, I really don't have the answer for it. What can be done to help the community? So I'm calling that. So we have a division that's called a safety education, and what we do is go out to the centers, the schools, we educate children, seniors on safety measures in terms of crossing, when to cross, when not to cross. We give out, little trinkets with, neon colors so that it's clearly visible to them. So we'd be more than happy to come out to any senior center that you have and give a presentation and give out some, nice little freebies. Let me know how you might like. I also think that it would be really helpful for people in the community, younger adults, to be mindful. Like, how do we raise awareness and mindfulness in that area as well? Hi,
We're going to bring you the microphone. 1 second so everyone can hear you.
Dawn Muller. I was wondering, are we still pushing for cameras? Because the cameras might have helped with that November fatality, figuring out what happened. Also, when e-bikes are like wandering around up and down the west side of the highway on the bike lane, like I bike up and down that thing all the time. And like, I do not want to feel e-bikes on there, but if you see them, they come right behind you, they're going 2 times fast, 2 or 3 times fast as ongoing. Yes. It seems so easy to get them. Like, whatever, but I don't know. They're really they're also going the wrong way on West End Avenue all the time.
Yes.
And so I told the kids, I used to say car still, now I say bike still. And I've been struck by the bike. It wasn't an e-bike, luckily, but it's like way more weight and way more speed. But anyway.
Yeah, so a question and a comment. The question is, if we could do, and it doesn't need to be today, a deeper dive into what's causing it, what the underlying factors are with all the crashes and injuries. Because we'll see, we can get the data online. We'll see that there are a lot of crashes at whatever intersection. And we know Broadway is a horrible corridor. It's the worst north-south corridor we have. We don't know what's causing it. So we don't know if it's left turns, if it's speeding, if it's running red lights. To the extent that you have any qualitative knowledge of what might be the underlying factors in a lot of these injuries, that would be really helpful.
Well, I can tell you in the 2-4 precinct, based on our analysis of overall collisions, that you're seeing a lot of side swipes and rear ends. And again, that's why we concentrate on those major corridors that I mentioned before, like Broadway, Amsterdam, Columbus. Again, it's mainly in the commercial district areas, like along Broadway, you have a lot of commercial businesses. So sometimes you have people that park, they're pulling out of parking spots, and you have the side swipes there. People merging in and out of lanes. So in very congested areas along Broadway, because you have a lot of those commercial districts, businesses, it creates that flow in, those side swipes and those rear ends. So that's what we're seeing in the 2-4 in terms of the type of collisions, mainly those.
So that would be causing motorist crashes. Is that causing motorist occupant injuries? I assume side swipes and rear ends are not causing pedestrian injuries.
Well, the pedestrian injuries that we saw, a lot of them are caused by left turns. Vehicles making left turn. That's why we're really concentrating on the failure to yield summonses. That the sergeant mentioned earlier, the same thing in 2-0. Well, we've really been concentrating on those type of summonses because we have vehicles making those left turns. A lot of the times it's driver inattention, not seeing the person crossing the crosswalk and making that left turn. So we write those failure to yield summonses. It kind of helps to address those type of collisions. That's why we write those type of summonses.
Should we ban left turns from Broadway?
Should we ban left turns on Broadway?
Or make it that you have to wait for the light.
Well, you do have to wait for the light, right? You still you have to.
No,
It's
if
just
you're-
that what's happening is the driver, they have the legal way to go to make a left turn. It's just that for some reason, whether it be the distraction or not paying attention, they're making a turn and they're not seeing the pedestrian, and that's what's causing some of these pedestrian-related collisions.
Are there any other questions? In the back, and then you, and then we'll be reset.
What's your name?
To my knowledge, I don't know, I don't think it was.
I guess it's my college who are very focused on them, the new identities stand out, but they're not involved in any accidents. Numbers, no one's been hit, no one's certainly no one's been killed. And you have more of this kind of traffic accidents and injuries and deaths. That's what people are being killed.
No, I'm sorry, I'm talking about right now, that somehow we got, that, the neighborhood, that, traffic injuries, crashes, that's absolutely not the case. Like, nobody accepts it, everybody is very hard.
Absolutely not justify that. I know that Zero and Councilman Rosenthal are doing great work on this. I just think that in these meetings in particular, the focus is, I think, a little bit lopsided.
Can I also point out, and I think this is something that I was remiss in not pointing out earlier, we take pedestrian safety, we take all traffic-related issues very seriously. 2-4 precinct, and I don't want to speak, and as well as in the 2-0. So much so that with Vision Zero, we're adopting pretty much a concept-based policing towards traffic in these commands. We concentrate on precision, targeted locations. That's why, I could go over, in terms of our hazardous related summonses, we wrote approximately 7,603 Vision Zero hazardous related summonses in 2017 compared to 6,819. So we're targeting specific type of summonses, collisions, to try to make everyone safe. So, we take it very seriously, and we're going to continue to take it seriously, and make sure that we target those core
My first time here, so.
I have one more.
It's my first time here, so I don't know how this really works.
You want to give us your name?
Dave Olszewski, still Dave Olszewski. So I'm just curious. So who's writing down all these comebacks? Because there's like dozens of stuff. And how do we get those comebacks? Do you guys come back next month, or how's it work?
We invite them periodically. They cannot come every month, but they do come periodically and have been terrific about doing that.
Yeah.
And the agendas are posted on the website, so you can look at the website.
So all the times you say, I'll get back to you, I'll get back to you, I'll get back to you, how's
Yes,
it handled?
I'm going to get back to the committee.
And we follow up with them as well.
Okay, so
We'll follow up, yes.
So then you guys go to them.
Just some of the information, some of the analysis that you wanted will require greater time to break down that information. Because you're looking for specific information.
Right, thank you.
Margaret, can I just make sure I understand that in 2017 there were 1,867 collisions, and there was one collision that involved a two-bike?
Yes.
Two questions. Do you have a sense of how many cars a day go through some of these high traffic areas like 96 Broadway? Is it 1,000? Is it 5,000?
No, I wouldn't have that information. I'd have to reach out to DOT.
A ballpark number? No, I don't have one on me because I'm asking the question, but you would have to do counts at a specific location.
They do the counts periodically when they're studying a street for design.
I'm just trying to get a sense of it. Seems like the numbers of accidents are pretty high. Is it just kind of because you get coverage, or is it because there's so many cars and it's a percentage of the scale? I'm just trying to get some balance.
Okay, the last, we can only have, we have 3 minutes left.
And someone is going to, get marked at some driving, want to show the police officers something before they.
Okay, then we have to make it really quick. We have 3 minutes for the rest of us.
I've got 2 minutes.
2 minutes, sorry, 2 minutes.
I just have a really quick observation. I personally hate e-bikes. I share the sentiment a lot of people have. Walking out of this meeting, though, I heard a million times, they're dangerous, they're dangerous, they're dangerous. We have to crack down on them, we have to confiscate them. And I'm hearing that of the 400 to 500 injuries in the district, only one was caused by an e-bike. And so I'm seeing a disconnect.
It's about prevention, and we're looking to be proactive. Many times, when people look at the NYPD or the police, they consider us being reactive. We're trying to be proactive and be preventive in terms of pedestrian safety. And that's one area that we're looking to target. Which, again, it's just one area, but it's an area we feel that can help to prevent pedestrian injuries.
Okay, we have 1 minute left.
Are you ready?
No, I'm not. It wants to repair something.
Okay. Yes.
Can't read the.
So a very practical question, how does one make a complaint about a particular business or a particular street or traffic light? Who do I want to do?
You can certainly tell us, but also.
So 311 is nothing. And then I gotta, and then I.
It might.
Yeah. Are we showing it, though?
Is this
Yeah,
within the 2-4 precinct, or just what you talk about in general, overall?
Talking about, 71st and Amsterdam.
Give me 1 second.
That I want to complain about, that I know
Mine,
for
but
sure
it's
it's
in the
going the
middle of doing
wrong
something,
way
so it's
on
not.
Amsterdam Avenue.
I'll give you my number. You can write down this number, 212.
Here you go.
Okay, I'm gonna give you the number to the 20th precinct, which is my direct line, 212-580-6422. I work from 6 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. Or you can email
Tell me
me,
your name again.
Felicia, FELICIA .Montgomery, MONTGOMERY @NYPD.org. If you call 311 and you don't get a response that you're satisfied with, just email me and then I'll have one of my safety guys go out and check the location.
I'll just make a quick comment on behalf of the committee. I think you're doing great work. I would ask you to just focus on what is actually causing injuries to people on the street and really try to focus your efforts on that and keep up the good work.
And again, if there's anything we can do, we're glad to.
We'll be contacting you to try to get these troublesome locations because we hope that we can do work with these people, do something about these problem areas.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Can we stick
around for a few minutes?
We're-
Some picture session? Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
Say what? Give me 1 more second.
We have to turn this on now, right?
Yeah, it should be on.
Oh, it is on, okay. There we go.
And to be clear, I wasn't complaining. You guys are complacent. You're doing a great job. I was saying the community in general, just regular people aren't paying as much attention as if 500 people are injured in some other way.
I know,
So,
but
yeah.
I don't want all that.
Make it bigger. I don't know how to do that. Maybe,
Okay, here we go.
maybe Rich knows how to do this. Rich, how to do this.
Yeah.
How do you make it bigger? Thank you.
Hang on 1 second.
You need a microphone?
Yes, please.
Not scripted. No, that's.
Anything not know that?
Oh, yeah, it's the famous scene from 1979. Okay, there.
Hey, guys.
Now-
Hello.
Okay, go ahead, Susan.
Okay, so I'm very concerned about pedestrian safety. I think we all are. Can you turn off those lights?
These are the lights,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
the back.
You could all see.
Okay, so at any rate, this is a scene you might all remember from 1969. Hey, I'm walking here. My husband now thinks I'm Ratso Rizzo because when I walk down the street, I often say to people that are coming at me on bicycles or whatnot, I'm walking here. How do we get down to the next one? Give me how we get to the next one.
Down there.
Nope, not working. That went too far. Nope. Okay. How do we get the, these are all just my own personal views on this stuff. This is not sanctioned by anybody. It seems to me that what's driving the problem that I see as pedestrian safety is that there's been a dramatic increase in biking in New York City. More than 3/4 of New Yorkers ride a bike regularly. That's 250,000 more than just 5 years ago. It's estimated that over 450,000 cycling trips are made each day, which is triple the amount taken 15 years ago. In the last 5 years, DOT has expanded and enhanced the on-street bike network by nearly 300 miles, which is great, including more than 45 protected lane miles, with a record 18 miles installed in 2016. On a typical day, there are over 450,000 cycling trips made in New York City. That's huge. An explosive 350% growth in daily cycling from 1990 to 2015, and then a relatively modest 80% growth from 2010 to 2015. So cycling to work has grown twice as fast in New York City as in other major cities. 80% growth in New York City compared to 39% growth in peer cities. Which, Margaret, to your point, we are keeping up as a global city with biking. These are some of the New York City biking laws. These are not my personal opinions of what should happen. These are actual laws that are on the books. I think we're all familiar with them. In the interest of time, I'll just let you just peruse it really quickly. One of the ones I'd like to call your attention to, though, is riding in the street, not on the sidewalks. It's illegal to ride a bike on the sidewalk. You have to ride with the traffic, not against it. You have to stop at the red lights and stop signs. Basically, you have to obey every traffic signal a car has to obey. So here we have our good friend Coyote. It says, "This carnivorous of vulgaris," and road runner. And a favorite quote of mine from a good friend of mine: "We may not all be bicyclists, but we are all pedestrians." So I'm going to show you pictures that I've taken. The majority of these photos were taken between 7:30 and 7:35 a.m. on the Thursday morning when I was coming home from the gym at the intersection of West 72nd Street and Columbus Avenue. There were more than 25 traffic transgressions in this 5-minute time period. I have not included all of them, so some of these are going to be repeats. I'll go through them pretty quickly. So this is looking down, going southbound on Columbus Avenue. This is an average city biker going through a red light, heading south, crossing West 72nd Street. A city biker heading the wrong way uptown on Columbus Avenue. He's in the bike lane, that's good news. He's about to go through a red light and collide with the M72 bus.
Did he collide, or he said he was about to? But he didn't. Okay.
But he was heading there.
Could we wrap this up in the next minute, because we've gone over time now. We have to wrap this up within 1 minute.
I don't think that's really fair.
It's just a fact. It's not a question of fairness. They have to leave. They have to leave at 8.
Well, then why did I continue after the officers leave?
We'll discuss that.
Okay. How much more do you have, Susan? Do you have any idea?
I've got about 10 minutes left. We spent an hour discussing this. I think it's pretty important. I don't see why. Can we discuss this with the business at the end of the meeting?
We'll discuss it later.
Excuse me?
We'll discuss it later. Thank you very much. We'll get done over time. Thank you. Yeah.
Can I continue the presentation?
We'll do it under new business. Thank you.
What?
I don't know why we don't finish it.
You know, Howard, that's really.
Thank you.
Can you explain why we can't continue this right now? For the pedestrian safety discussion, the officers have to leave, but don't
We
you
have
think
other
else?
items and it's new business.
You're discussing pedestrian safety.
Everything has to do with pedestrian safety that we do.
probably more efficient.
Can you turn that off, please? Okay, we have the next agenda item. Let's keep it moving. 908 Amsterdam Avenue application.
Oh, well, actually, there's a base. Is the representative from the base? You are here. Great. Great. Can you come up and give us your name, please? And can we get the lights back?
Hi, good evening, everyone. We represent New App Car Limo. We located at 908 Amsterdam, 104 and 105. We focus on transportation on the Upper West Side for the community. And we are renewing our license this year. We are open for 3 years. So this is the second renewal. So we focus also in Medicaid transportation. Yes, sir. Medicaid, Medicare transportation for the elderly, people that need assistance, wheelchairs, and.
Is it accessorized or is it different? Is it under accessorized or is it in
It depends. Yes, sir.
The license we have is for hire. Yes, it's a renewal of a base. We've done this before. Folks, can we have quiet? Yep, we really need quiet.
Oh, you know what? I'm just keeping
Just a point of information, this is going, the outreach that was done, and that's normally done for these base renewals, wasn't done in enough time, so we're gonna take a vote tonight. They're going to do more outreach in the community, and the final vote will take place at full board, the next full board meeting. So they will be doing outreach between now and then, because there was sort of a little bit of confusion as to whether this would be on tonight or not. So you understood that, and we decided to hear you tonight. I don't believe the office has received any complaints about New App Car Service, but does anyone here have any comments about Michelle?
I just have a question. How long has New App been at this location?
3 years.
Were you anyplace else before this location?
No.
So you're a 3-year-old base?
Yes.
Any other comments or questions? Then I'll move to approve this base pursuant to the outreach, the proper outreach between now and full board in the community, which is what the applicants normally do. Anyone have any questions? Okay, then, all in favor of renewal of this base? 5, 6. No, okay. He is? I'm not voting, okay. 6, 0, 0, 0, and the committee, non-committee board members in favor? 1, 3, 4, 0, 0, 0. And we will see you the first Tuesday in February. Thank you, and please bring evidence of having done the outreach in the community, okay? Thank you very much.
They know what to do for that?
They do. Okay. They did it today, but it just wasn't enough time.
No, nowhere near it.
Not here yet.
Mr. Zellman, container stood on.
That's me.
Okay.
David, yeah. Good evening, everyone. I'm here because I'm a neighborhood resident. I live on 73rd, 74th and West End Avenue. And just like this young lady over here and these young people back here, we have the same kinds of problems. But what I first would like to do is talk about a situation that's going on in our neighborhood for sure, throughout the city probably. And that is contractors now being allotted a space to park their trucks while they're working on a building. Number one, according to Helen Rosenthal's office, that the building, the amount of spaces that are taken up by these commercial vehicles, or by the fencing in its entirety, cannot pass the building line. And yet it's past all the building lines. We have, as a matter of fact, where are the slides? She said she was going to have the slides for me. Penny. Did you? I sent slides to Penny a number of different times. Well, I'm sure everyone,
Did you send it by email?
Yeah, I sent it to her twice. She has them. I thought she was gonna. Okay. So, for example, the Astor renovation. The Astor renovation has taken up 20 parking spots because on one half of the block, which is between Broadway and West End on 76th Street, they have space for their containers for trash. Fine, we understand that. The other side of the block, which is on 75th Street between Broadway and West End Avenue, has spots specifically for people working in the building. So when you amortize out, think what that cost the city over the year that this has been going on, quite a lot of money. So we have that problem.
Dave, hold on one second. Colleen? Yeah. When a contractor applies for space for their project, does anybody from DOT later go out to see if they're utilizing the amount of space they requested or more?
Yes, we do. Actually, when we issue permits, we go out to the site and we make sure that the permit stipulations are in compliance. Now, if there is a specific complaint about a construction site, let me know and I can have an inspector go to the site tomorrow to make sure that they are in compliance.
It's been going on for a year.
And if they're not in compliance, we can issue something to them. I'll give you my card. But go ahead.
But again, it's been going on for a year. Secondly, one of the pictures that I sent to Penny showed a area blocked off and a sign, no parking driveway. So, I mean, they're really getting arrogant about this as well.
You take off the sign and said no parking?
Yeah.
Is it like handwritten or?
Yeah, handwritten. The other problem we have in our neighborhood is a school called Manhattan Day School. Manhattan Day School is a religious school, and what happens is on Friday during the fall winter, they close their school down at 2:30. However, the parking law still says no parking till 5 at the synagogue where they just had the last board meeting. That's another school. They only have it till 4. The public school only has it till 4. Be that as it may, I met with both the principal of the Hebrew department and I met with the principal for the scholastic department, and they both said, great idea. We'll put a sign on the tree. No one will bother. It won't be a sign hammered in or anything. Turns out that there's, like in the political clubs in the neighborhood, there's an executive board and there's a super secret executive board. Well, it turns out there's a super secretive person in charge of the school, and he turned us down. He turned it down. There's no reason for him to turn it down. There's no reason for him to get better privileges than the public schools or other religious.
Think he turned us down? Who's the us?
The neighborhood.
So you're asking them to change the sign to 5 o'clock and 4 o'clock?
Well, no. What I initially asked for is for them to put up a sign saying on Fridays during the fall, late fall, and the winter, saying schools closed, 2:30 schools closed. You can park there now.
But they have no authority to.
But they don't have only DOT.
Sorry?
They can't, I mean, they can do that, but they can't do that. It's the same as the.
But they can. Of course, they can. DOT can do it. I mean,
So you're
DOT.
asking DOT to do this.
Sorry.
You were asking DOT to do this.
Correct. We spoke to DOT about
I thought you said you asked the school to do it.
Well, I did. First of all, I asked the school to do it. It wouldn't be, like this. At least I had ammunition going in to speak with DOT, saying even the school approved them.
Okay.
Until
So
that
yes,
one
if they-
gentleman, And again, from what I'm told by the people that live on 75th Street, they're not even very good neighbors. So I don't see why we want to make these concessions to people who, number one, don't live in the neighborhood, don't spend any money in the neighborhood, et cetera, et cetera.
Let's get a piece of information. Colleen, when a school has a change in their hours on a seasonal basis, like Dave is describing, does DOT do signage that reflects that? You don't, do you?
But you do signage, for example, in Manhattan Beach and Brooklyn, where there's signage that says you can't park there during the summer. There are, yeah, but this is the winter.
So, I mean, if it's one particular day you're talking about, what are the hours of the school in the winter? Are they in there?
Not on Fridays. Not on Fridays.
Yeah, but for one day we will not.
No, but what you could do is allow them to put the sign up and advise the officers that after 2:30, that people can park there without getting a ticket. You could do that.
No, we can't.
Again, not and couldn't are different, but okay. Again, I'm just here to explain some of the situations.
We need to keep this short. What exactly are you asking for?
I'm not asking for anything other than, number one, we begin to enforce the rules about how contractors take up space. You asked a very, very good question of the lieutenant when you had asked him, well, what percentage of the vehicular accidents are caused by commercial vehicles and what are caused by regular passenger vehicles? I also asked him, why is it that they spend more time on Riverside Drive and Central Park West as opposed to on Columbus and Amsterdam, where all the trucks are? As a matter of fact, and again, Sergeant Montgomery knows this, a number of years ago, Scott Stringer had a situation where they had a policeman on West End Avenue by 73rd, 74th Street, and they were ticketing commercial vehicles. But then what they were doing was seeing what other violation that commercial vehicle had in addition to speeding or whatever. So they found that 65% had an additional violation other than just speeding, making them more dangerous. Not only that, we then asked Linda Rosenthal, then the inspector at the 20th precinct said that the reason the police no longer give out or go through that whole litany of things for a truck is because when they got to go see the judge would dismiss everything but, the speeding part maybe. And so we said, well, that doesn't seem very logical. And we asked her to please send down to the 20th precinct a representative of the DMV to speak to us and let us know that, no, this is not right. And if you know that this is happening, please let us know. That never happened. And again, we end up bearing the brunt of this. The other problem that we have in our neighborhood is Amsterdam Avenue at 72nd Street. On the weekends, an ambulance cannot get from 71st Street to 73rd Street with less than 2 lights with sirens going. And this has been an ongoing situation, as I'm sure anyone who lives in that neighborhood knows, since this occurred, since this butterfly occurred.
Is it double parking? Is it double parking?
No, it's just too many cars, and the lighting is such.
Well, we have an agenda item here, congestion pricing. Actually, that's the next item.
Good. So it's always, everything is attached. There's nothing separate. One of the questions I have for this board is how you could allow Trader Joe's to park their 40-foot trailers on 72nd Street in front of a bus stop, double parking. So you're concerned about pedestrian safety. So here you have a situation where a bus is going to have to go out from the bus lane all the way to the 3rd lane before they can move. That's just dangerous. I've never seen a bus stop in back of a loading zone.
We're not the police. This is an enforcement issue. And
no, there's not an enforcement issue.
We allow.
No, I didn't say that you allow. I said that this exists, that this had to come to you.
When we granted that loading zone, it was definitely not in the bus stop.
It's not, it's one lane over, but they take the bus stop.
Not,
But
that's what I mean,
they-
it's an enforcement issue.
But
Again,
again, exactly, it goes back to that, but then again, when the community board sees that this is an ongoing thing, and don't forget, when bike lanes were first put in, DOT would come and say, it's enforcement, we'll enforce it. The reason it'll work is because we'll enforce it, but they haven't been enforcing it. I mean, we know that they haven't been enforcing it. And again, we're
Speaking about enforcement, what is the agenda item here? I have on the agenda that you're talking about containers stored on the roadways.
No, that's not about improper use of street space by contractor vehicles. That is the
But he's not.
about, I'm talking about the traffic
But he's
conditions
morphed
in my
into something
neighborhood.
else.
So how long do you have an open mic to just talk to the
He's
committee
almost
about
done.
your ramblings?
My ramblings?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice. That's really, I mean, and you're a board member, you're a community member.
I
you
know,
talk
it's
like
awful.
that? Oh, man, that's not very nice. Okay, so we have those two problems. Those two are big problems citywide, probably, as a number of people have mentioned areas that they too have experienced this.
Dave,
So, that's it.
Do what you've done previous to tonight, which is if you see what you feel is an infraction by contractor vehicles, phone it into the board office, and Penny or John or whoever's here will check to see what to do, check with the colleagues.
Okay, that's
we'll
fine.
continue to do
And
that.
what,
Does we want, have you tried calling 301? I was called 301 for a double park bus and they came.
yeah, okay, right, it has, you know, you've got to do something to keep the averages right, okay? Again, but please make them follow up with those questions that were asked here,
We
and
will
then
follow
post
up with
them.
them.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, sorry.
This is a complaint-driven system. So what you need to do is to lodge the complaints.
Yeah,
Because
lodge
Colleen
the
has
complaints.
said she will respond to
I
the
agree.
complaints. It's not a, so when you see it, you gotta call it.
Right, but you see it as well.
I don't see what you see, but.
Well, I'm sure you see something similar.
We're gonna move on, folks, okay?
Thank you so much.
But the next topic is a little complicated, but certainly no less important. So it appears that the governor will be bringing a proposal for congestion pricing to the legislature. I'm going to give you my take on this from an MTA perspective. The MTA sorely needs this money. It is, and I will use the Move New York congestion pricing proposal as the one that I'm talking about. It's not at all clear that that's the one that will pass or that could pass the legislature. But I think that's the one that is the easiest one to sell to Brooklyn and Queens legislators, because the Move New York proposal, while instituting a congestion charge for Manhattan south of 60th Street and putting a toll on the three East River bridges, also reduces tolls on the Marine Bay, Broad Neck, Whitestone, Triborough, and Verrazano bridges. And that's no small potatoes for many Brooklyn and Queens commuters. I'm sure you all know how expensive the Verrazano bridge is, especially if you're not a Staten Island resident. But this is estimated to bring $1.3 to $1.4 billion into the MTA. This would allow the MTA to bring much needed transit improvements, as well as lower or put off the every other year 4% fare hikes that have been in existence now for many years. It would allow them to finish a lot of projects. I think it's sellable to Brooklyn and Queens legislators, who are apparently the biggest opponents of congestion pricing, although there are some Long Island legislators as well.
And there's some upstate.
And there are some upstate. And, you know, at the moment, it appears the mayor is not on board with this. But the subway action plan, the state has put in their half, the city has not put in their half. This means that certain components of that would have to be put off, not dead, but put off, which means that the fix that we all need and the city must have for the subway system would take longer. So the mayor's appointees on the MTA are very much sounding like they are in favor of congestion pricing. I wish the mayor was, Maybe the mayor will relax his opposition to it when he sees what the eventual bill is, although the mayor and the governor, of course, are like this, and that doesn't make things easy at MTA or anywhere else for that matter. But there are an awful lot of vehicles that are on our streets that don't have to be there. And that if they are going to clog it, and by the way, I'm hopeful that in addition to the regular congestion pricing proposal, that they now put a per ride charge on all of the car services who are not paying anything towards the MTA, whereas the yellow pads are. And that would just be fair. So there are all of these issues to consider. There would have to be issues about folks that perhaps live on the Upper West Side, have to cross 60th Street to take their kids to school, or have to have to return a rental car, or there has to be certain things worked out for obviously for hire vehicles, for residents of an area, something to make sure that people don't drive in and park on the border of the 60th Street boundary or something like that, which would be a real bad thing for the Upper East and Upper West Side. So there are all kinds of minor issues that have to be worked out. But I think overall that this is an important thing that New York needs to do to keep our streets moving, to improve our transit system, and I think our way of life, really. I just think this is something that whose time has really come. That's the proposed border. That's where the readers, the license tag readers would be. And by the way, by putting tolls on the free bridges, you will actually be saving a lot of fuel because people are now driving miles out of their way to get to a free bridge and clogging downtown Brooklyn and Long Island City needlessly, whereas they have a toll crossing that would much better meet their needs. And that's why you also have a weird, much heavier traffic load and a much higher maintenance fee on the Manhattan, the Brooklyn, and the Williamsburg Bridge versus the Midtown Tunnel in Manhattan. No, toll booths are a thing of the past.
Let me just give you some background. I had this put on the agenda, and Andrew did a great job describing a proposal that doesn't yet exist. So I don't think we'll vote on it unless there's a major desire. It's just an update to the committee, and when the governor finally comes up with a proposal, we can vote on it then. But I think it's an important proposal, and also, as someone mentioned, it also will reduce pollution, and that affects literally every one of us.
And wasting fuel.
It goes on and on and on.
Cleaner air.
I just want to know how much input CB7 will have.
Well,
Probably
once, Michelle, my feeling is that once we see the eventual bill, we would then discuss it again and pass a resolution and send it to our state representatives. Right.
And BCI.
And send it to our city council members too, because we have a new speaker of the council and he sounds like he's very pro MTA.
So, I mean, it's on the agenda as a discussion. I think the one thing that we might want to have input on, to the extent that we have any minor voice in what the ultimate proposal is they're talking about drawing the line within our district. And that could cause major issues in our district if people decide they're going to drive to 60th Street or 61st Street and try to find parking and then switch over to a walker to take public transportation. That could have a major impact on our district. And I think we might want to talk through and just bring our heads together about what impact that might be.
We don't know if it's going to be 60th Street. We don't know what kind of parking changes will be made north of 60th.
So do we want to be proactive and make suggestions of if you're going to do this in...
You have to know what the proposal is before you can make suggestions. We really have no idea.
Do we, or can we make suggestions?
The governor is relying on a group called Fix NYC to come up with their take on which proposal should be.
Okay, so are there any thoughts that we might have for Fix NYC?
I don't know that they will. Yeah, I mean, if it turns out to be 60th Street, we may want to seriously consider residential parking.
Do we want to proactively get a message to Fix NYC? I don't know what it might be, but do we want to? Yeah.
I'd rather wait on the proposal.
It's hard to comment on something you don't know what it is.
Exactly.
No, it's a problem with waiting for the finite proposal. Because I mean, if that's a good year, it's all to be done within 3 weeks and we'll close our opportunity. Essentially, this is going to be voted on as part of the budget.
So it's gonna be
So it has to be voted on by April 1st, give or take. Which means that if you're going to comment, it has to be at our March meeting, which is only one more of your meetings between now and then.
Well,
So you may very, so
Then
I
our
agree
comments
that
to fix
maybe
NYC, obviously.
well, but you may or may not, by the time of your next meeting, which is February 15th. That's gonna be your last
We
chance
have,
to comment on this.
we have someone from the Assembly members office, so.
Well, I think it's something much better.
Yeah, why not try it?
I'm sorry.
Wait, we're still talking.
I didn't want to throw out the big crowd your agenda, but.
Can you get is it possible for someone to get maybe a rough draft of the bill and they actually let that
It'll be in the New York Times.
Just a question that I have in terms of giving more money to the MTA is the fact that I think the last go around, you had a couple of extra people on the payroll. They were doing work. How do we, I mean, this exists throughout the city. How are we gonna fix that? How are we gonna make sure that at least most of the money gets into fixing the infrastructure?
Well, first of all, it isn't gonna all go to the MTA. It is roads and bridges, maintenance and upkeep in that, obviously. There are task forces now, at the MTA to look into every aspect of the procurements, the contractors, why we always have pretty much the same contractors bidding, and it's not that easy to bid on an MTA job because they're very big and require large bonds and what have you. But we want to make sure there's no collusion. We want to make sure that everyone is getting an opportunity to bid, who's qualified to bid. So people are really, really looking at everything, every dollar the MTA spends, and there is a hiring freeze at the moment, believe it or not. So. For 6 months, it's not affecting safety or security, but everything else.
Something that's been considered. But I also agree, Mark, I think it's always good to be proactive. Especially if you have proposals that you think are really good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly happy to take everybody's, and we, not me, I'm not running this, but we would take all of our ideas and send them to the Fix NYC group and let them know what our feeling is before they come out with a final bill. Okay.
Absolutely, guys, absolutely. What's your name again?
Josh.
Still Josh.
Still Josh.
Let us know if it changed.
Yeah, I will. I guess, one question I have is, I know there's no proposed bill yet or anything, but, the personnel like to see the barrier or the line drawn as far north as possible. To the extent that we can reduce traffic within the district rather than becoming a parking lot for the electricity, I think that benefits everybody.
I think the first way, well, we
Imagine,
would all agree with
I
that.
can't imagine that wouldn't be thought out in the bill. But the only other place I have ever heard, the only other boundary I have ever heard during this discussion, I think it was maybe during former Mayor Bloomberg's stab at this, was 96th Street. And that also has its own share of issues. They're not going to do it at 125th Street, for instance. It would have to be 96 or lower to be effective.
I would support that.
So I think two messages we'd want to send. I agree with Josh. The further north, the better. And I think that if we send a message to Fix New York that we want to be within the zone, that could be a message that they hear. The second is the importance of having resident parking in the area, especially just directly north of the zone. Because otherwise we're going to become a parking lot for everyone driving into the city.
Yeah, and you know that the area in Queens, Jamaica Estates, had that because so many people were driving to 179th Street, Hillside Avenue, and using the subway that they had to do it.
Yeah, and I think that I'd love to see us move to a resolution, and we can talk through what it would be. But on those 2 points of having it that we want our entire district to be within the zone, and that we want resident parking so that we don't become a parking lot.
There's another issue that somehow has to mesh with all of that, and there are a lot of people who who leave their cars to work, and they drive around the city, and they have families and hospitals. You have to be able to identify people who have legitimate use of their cars, who are residents, who are going around the neighborhood, who should not be penalized for this. For example, if I drive from my apartment in 1994 to my daughter's at 88th First, and I'm not, and the zone is at 96th Street, every time I go to my daughter's house, I'm paying a fee to go this way.
Nikki, what you could do is what they do now for residents of the Rockaways and Broad Channel on the Cross Bay Bridge, and the Verrazano for residents of Staten Island, trucks using the Verrazano. Pay once and have unlimited numbers of times during the day. That's what they do.
But also, sometimes you can take a bus and.
I agree.
One of the proposals, I think it was the Bloomberg proposal, is to live in the district you're at, right?
If you're in the district and you're needing to go out in the morning, you don't pay.
Right.
Like
The problem with the Bloomberg proposal, the problem with the Bloomberg proposal was everybody east of the Hudson had to pay the congestion fee, but nobody west of the Hudson did. So whether you were from Jersey, Ohio, or California, you could have as many vehicles jamming the island of Manhattan, but it only affected New York State residents.
Oh, that's not
That wasn't good.
Well, they pay the tolls.
Look, I've lived in the city.
They do pay a toll.
I lived in London, which is one of the first major places in the world to have congestion. And they exempt, the congestion charge did not apply to people who live in the center. Well, that was the Bloomberg. Yeah, it was very simple. But so the problematic, we're debating a proposal we don't know anything about. So is there any overriding concerns that you feel strongly about expressing regarding this?
Sounds like
Sounds
like the major concern.
Yeah.
Well, I think since you don't know.
We don't know.
And if you want to weigh in as early as possible, then whatever you're weighing in on, it's very general. And a very simple resolution.
Something we haven't even mentioned is it has to be put in a lockbox. When the state needs extra money, they can't rate it like they have.
So I think if we put, I think, excuse me, I'm speaking.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So I think if you put in 4 or 5 things, it's very general, lockbox, the border.
Special provisions for residents
Exactly.
around the border.
Right. I think if you put those 5 or 6 things that have been mentioned so far in a very simple resolution.
And send it to fix and
Are we going to do that tonight?
Well,
Yeah.
And vote on it in February, and then although it can come into the February meeting, it's just let that have more information. Other legislation is shaking up, and we could then have a more specific resolution.
Aldo, do you have any sense of when the proposal will be unveiled? Okay.
Anyone else comment on this? Michelle?
When the MTA charge is put on the yellow cabs, passenger paid it. No negotiating.
80 cents per trip or something.
And I agree with you that all these for-hire services should have the congestion pricing.
That's one of the major.
However, what those services will do, and that will have to go to the passenger pay.
Sure. Just like what 80 cents does on our yellow cab.
Yes, but what Lyft and Uber might do is reduce the price of the ride to the passenger. So that it doesn't look like.
That's not what they say they're going to do.
Okay, but
just
when you have a charge on the taxi.
Turn off your economist hat.
Get another receipt, there's no, the cab driver can't say, oh, don't pay that. That's collected, but when you call Uber, say a ride that used to cost $10, now there's a surcharge on that ride. Uber can still only only has to charge you $10. They don't have to add this surcharge, but that's part of the $10.
So they take it out of $10. I don't care what part of my fee comes out of it.
No.
As
Yeah, but then the driver will get hurt.
That's why I don't think they're gonna do that. I think they're gonna charge the passenger.
It's easier for Lyft and Uber to not charge, to not make it look like the passenger could charge that surcharge. And hurt the driver.
Oh, I like the point. I think that it's so crowded already.
I agree. Not to be 96, to be like a bit higher than
Oh,
that.
No, it's okay, or if it is.
Or lower, just right, 96.
No, but if it is, then maybe some of that needs to help
There's
expand
enough
our 96.
That's a good point.
It's okay if it's 96, because more money to fix our stations. Get new entries.
Well, that would be a major source of capital funding.
Yeah, that's good.
Mark, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to react to Mark's comment, which is that the 72nd Street IRT station is the narrowest platform in the entire system. And if we make the line such that that becomes the embarkation point of the subway, we're not going to do ourselves any favors. So where we draw that line has to be carefully constructed, both in terms of what alternatives are available, reasonably available, not just that there's a stairway there. And secondly, it needs to be coordinated with where there's an exit on the highway.
And that and the fact that the West Side IRT between 72nd and 66th Street is the place on the entire line that is the most crowded. People start disembarking after 66th Street.
Oh, I think.
Yes, so between 72 and 66 is the busiest part of the entire line. Bob, when London did this, David, I'm sorry. When London did this, did you find that people drove to the border to use the two?
People pay the congestion charge.
No, but those that decided to not do it, did they get on the tube at a distant place or right near the border? Wouldn't you go to where you thought there might be parking and where the trains would be less crowded rather than
Or leave it home. In London,
or leave it home? Right, sure.
in London, there is no parking. So the problem is that you couldn't just drive in to where the border began and then park your car there. There just wasn't any parking. So people either paid the congestion charge or else took a train in from home. Right. Which was
I was really surprised that people would drive from like Riverdale or Westchester to the West Side IRT where it's really crowded and get on the train there. I just don't. But
because you'll be spending a lot of time driving around.
Exactly, looking for parking. Exactly.
And also the resident parking fees can also be added to the revenue going in.
Sure. Rich?
I was going to propose a resolution, so if you want to finish.
No, I think.
Okay, so I have 6 things I think we should include in a resolution. Number 1, having the boundary as far north as possible, ideally north of CB7, carefully considering the impact on the neighborhood and on the transit system. Number 2, to the extent that adding park and ride facilities, ideally far from Manhattan as possible, that would be ideal. Number 3, including a resident parking for our district and the districts just outside of the boundary of the congestion parking. And I can email all this to you. Number 4, provisions for residents driving, for residents of our district driving into the zone. 5, a lock on the dollars for the MTA to make sure it can't be rated. And number 6, a fee on for-hire vehicles with the money going to the MTA. Does anyone second this?
Wait. Yeah, with the congestion pricing charge, so that would be separate in lieu of the
a per ride charge for hire vehicles that enter the congestion zone, which
so they wouldn't be subject to
because the yellow cabs already have it.
For the yellow cabs and the problem with this is we don't know what's in the proposal. So the yellow cabs and the for-hire vehicles would not be subject to the congestion charge.
No, it's bringing.
No,
this is bringing the for-hire vehicles to parity with yellow cabs per ride, totally separate from congestion pricing.
Yeah, you gotta get this right. And we don't know what the proposal is.
No, this would be totally separate, just to bring them to parity now because we're hearing it's not.
For-hire vehicles would pay more than a private vehicle?
No. Right now, my understanding is right now when you go into a yellow cab, they're forced to collect an 80 cents.
If I
For-
go in a cab, I have to pay.
You gotta
If I
understand,
go in a
but
black car,
we don't
I go.
understand how these vehicles will be treated on the new congestion pricing.
Why don't we?
Yeah.
This is what
How
we're,
they're treated.
we're
We
doing.
want a Ford, a
These
per
are
trip
suggestions,
charge.
this is not, we don't have the resolution. We're coming up with ideas of things that we think would make a core, which are core, which would be good for the resolution,
Right.
for the legislation.
Some points that we were gonna send to fix NYC prior to them releasing the.
Exactly.
However, why is that we should not say, north of 96th Street or as far north as possible. I think we should say as far north as possible.
Right.
And not put a specific number on it, because they will be doing studies.
Right.
And we don't, that's a fight we don't have to have when the other things.
And there's
we might
technical
want to find out.
consideration.
Well, do we want to say north of our district?
No.
We want to say as far
As far
north as
north as
possible.
As far north as possible. That gives them the range of all of Manhattan, wherever they want to do it. And I think that makes more sense.
You know, it's entirely conceivable that if it's 60th Street, for instance, that turns out to be the border, somebody who wants to go to New Jersey and wants to avoid that fee would go north to the GW Bridge project rather than come down and get charged as congestion, which could alleviate traffic in our zone.
Okay. So that's one, you know, we need to not do it.
I'll second the resolution if we change it to as far north as possible.
And you're gonna say also, as far as the per ride charge for the for-hire vehicles, that is separate from the congestion
That's my
pricing.
And they should have
But it's something we wanna send as well.
That I got that.
They should have parity with the old.
Now, does Fix, actually thinking about that, does Fix New York have say on that, or is that a totally different issue that's just getting confused?
We
Fix
can
New
still
York
suggest it.
is
It can hurt to
just doing the
Okay.
congestion pricing, I think, but I don't think it's fair.
It can hurt.
Yeah. And we should probably send a copy of what we're doing to our state elected
Yeah, we
officials.
will. I agree.
I was second.
Josh, do you have something to say? Or are you just scratching your head?
No, sorry, I want to weigh in on 2 points, the resident parking permits and the resident discount or free. One of the points of this is not just to raise money for the pay, it's to raise the cost of parking and equalize it with the use of public transportation. We want to reduce the total amount of traffic for Manhattan, not just clear the streets for people who happen to live. I think that, you know, if I get on the subway, I pay someone's parking here and driving through the streets, they should pay the fee whether they live here or not.
Most people are paying fees anyway, because you're paying parking on Amsterdam, Broadway, Columbus, many of the sites you go on, you're paying parking on the avenue. On the avenue.
Yeah, but residents are using
A lot of times, I get fees all the time when I'm working on.
You can't get around it because you are paying, if you have a vehicle or rent a vehicle, you're gonna pay a fee.
And
You're gonna pay some kind of.
They're gonna do,
And so that's a fee, and that's one thing people will take into account when they're deciding whether to have a car.
You're still gonna pay a fee if you get a car, you're gonna pay a fee.
if we have a resolution.
Exactly.
So why charge another fee? Why tack on another fee?
We're tacking on another fee because we want to reduce.
I think
the-
that's
Wait, we have a resolution on the floor, so we need to have the board discuss.
One quickly, the lot box, the
So-
border as north as possible, residential parking permits.
Park and ride.
Park and ride, explore park and ride, provisions for residents driving, and a per ride charge on for-hire vehicles.
Are you specifying a proposed location for those parking rides?
I think we should actually specify there should be parking right at several spots, at several entry spots near the border. So for example, God forbid it's at 60th Street, there should be a parking lot at 66th Street and at 72nd and at 80th.
No, I'm thinking in Westchester,
So I agree with you, it's just that's.
outside of Manhattan.
It should be outside. I know there's no room for a parking lot. It was merely an example of, you want to give people multiple entry points that are easy to get
All right,
to.
let's not get
All
that.
right, well, let's not, this is, we're trying not to be.
I think we should say
I'm just saying
more
multiple,
parking
that's
rides
what I'm
at places that are well served by public transportation. Or words to that effect.
I just want to say I'm voting against this. This is to me almost like the tax law. It's just hastily thrown together, and there are a lot of good things in there, but I just don't know
These are,
enough.
I mean,
The parking rides
Parking
and
lot I can live with that. But, all
But if we took park and ride out, would you?
Why are we,
I'm definitely there with congestion pricing.
why are we, it's almost certainly going to be in our quarters. It's going to be 66, 39, 60. Why are we not using our parking lot? That's my first concern.
Because that encourages people to drive into our district and use our already overcrowded trains. I don't think that's a smart move.
No, I'm saying park and rides outside Manhattan.
You didn't say that.
Yeah, I did. I said far away.
Far away.
So if I call it create park and ride outside Manhattan, well served by public transportation.
Let's just take that out for now.
Take it out
Because when we get the real when we get more information about the proposed law, then we may go deeper. Let's
Sure.
just keep this.
Okay.
All right, so parking.
And I also have a problem with residential parking. We're just going to give away parking rights to people.
I can pay south because I don't have a car. I'll get that permit. I'll be south, baby.
Who pays taxes?
Everyone pays taxes.
You can charge for the permits.
Okay, if there was a charge.
But-
we're in it.
But that's still, you're not saying that it doesn't feel without a fee. You're just saying it's
Well, I'm saying, well,
I'm good with charging a fee. But my concern here is,
I don't think that goes to big NYC though.
All of the things that, all of the things that you're talking about, do not work. This is not London. We have over 20 million people in this country. Do not think those things that you're suggesting are going to work. London and all those other global cities are smaller. They have a less population. They can do it. They can get away with it. All of the things that you're suggesting, you just suggested 3 or 4 good things. I think we should just stick with it and just go with it. Because you keep adding,
They took away. They keep
yeah,
taking
we're,
away.
I started with 6, I'm down to 5. Isaac, which one are you saying you disagree with?
Mark came up with a good suggestion. Talking about doing it far north, like far.
Maybe we could just
Can
go
we
as far
wait?
north as possible.
Let's go, let's go
Could
so at the northern, as far north as,
Everyone's in favor.
as far north as possible.
Carefully considering impact on neighborhood and transit system.
Right. Provision for
Everyone's in favor of the lockbox.
lockbox,
Yep.
These are easy.
provision for residents.
It has to be a provision for them.
So my concern here,
They originally had that in the last one, which was if you were driving, you'd only have to pay once.
Well, actually, it wasn't so much the residential parking service.
It's complicated, and you can't solve it in a discussion. There are two things we all agree on unequivocally. North is possible and the lockbox. So those are two.
my issue with resident parking, and I definitely hear you, Josh, is we're going to have, wherever the line is, we're going to have people driving in and wanting to park on the street just north of the line, which is going to, why not?
Because then they get stuck with really crowded subways that are gonna be even more crowded.
Or else
because-
keep riding around looking for spaces.
Yeah.
And they will.
Once they see that it's a no win, they won't.
It's a learning curve and they will be gone. I'm telling you. They will.
I don't see that as a problem, but I see residents of the district who may have to go into the congestion zone frequently and several times a day to pick up children or whatever, that they, I think, should be given special dispensation. Because they're not causing massive congestion.
But you know, these are just suggestions.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're saying, and the resident, when we, you know, hopefully we'll see some of the proposal before the vote at all.
Do you want to have a resolution just on the, as far north as possible and a lockbox, and then maybe a separate resolution? Because I think we'll get unanimity on that.
Separate resolution is going to be on a per charge ride,
Let's just
higher
quickly
service.
Just do one.
Yeah, it's got to be one.
What?
It's got to be one. If we're sending multiple resolutions,
Does the resolution say we're in favor of congestion pricing?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, that's.
yeah, that's important.
We'll just aggregate it later, but just to get it off the table, 3 things. We're in favor of the concept of congestion pricing. Number 2, we want the quarter as far north as possible. And three, every penny that comes from the congestion pricing fee should go to improving public transport.
So Ed, number 4, hear me out. Hear me out. Just let me talk. So number 4 would be include the community board in finalizing the plans for how this will impact our district.
Okay, I'll go for that.
They're not gonna do it.
They're not going to do it. No, listen.
They're not going to do any of this.
Okay,
So,
here-
but at least we're going on record.
I call the question on those 4 things. All in favor of those 4 things? Anyone opposed? Non-committee members? Okay, we got 4 things. 4
Non-committee board members opposed,
Yeah, I'm writing the 4th.
non-committee board members abstaining.
So wait, how many,
So the vote is 6 or it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
0 and 0 and 0?
And then I'm not, it's 2, 2, 0, 2, 0.
0, 2, 0?
I still think we should be in favor of a per charge ride for the way it's, for
I
higher.
think so. I propose.
I just wanted to get 4 things.
Why don't you propose a resolution?
I would.
Yeah, I'll propose a resolution, a separate resolution that, and who would be in charge of that? Who's?
What's the
We'll send that to fix
Uh,
NBC as well.
That there's a per ride charge on non-yellow cabs at parity with.
We didn't vote on this, but we voted that there was a strong feeling that.
Okay. So you want to call a question on that?
Sure.
You wanna-
Vicky, the new resolution
Okay,
is to charge a fee for hire.
yes, I do.
Okay, so all those in favor? Six.
I was saying anything in there about,
I'm gonna abstain.
that making sure that actually.
We have a lockbox there.
But
I don't think we, I don't think, as long as the,
Are you voting against me?
abstain.
All all non-committee members.
I'll vote for it, but I think it should include a, lockbox. No, not the lockbox.
The money goes to the MTA.
Yes.
No, yes, that, but the additional issue that Michelle raised, that it be an actual pass-through charge rather than
Yes.
being susceptible of.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. Okay. So
I think that's the way
All-
over with the plan.
all-
Now I'll vote twice.
all non-committee board members. You're not committee. All,
Wait, did we just add that? I kind of oppose that, Mark. That would be setting pricing for Uber, telling them that they can't lower their price, but they don't have a fixed price.
Okay.
And we-
A good,
Mark, I think the next one is your item. Well, isn't that?
No, it's,
You
yeah,
were-
Mark and me.
Oh,
So
okay.
the next item is, we're asking each committee to look at the outside organizations, that can provide information that will help in creating the district needs statement. So, for example, we get information from Senator Member Rosenthal on legislation. We get information from Colleen on DOT. We were suggesting that maybe Philip Humvee, who's been doing studies both in the northern and the southern end of the district as well. The northern end of the district and the southern end as well.
We can't hear you at all.
You got one now.
So we're suggesting people like Philip Habib, who are doing traffic studies for organizations, the northern end of this.
What did he have sort of,
Well, it's just someone to come in and talk. He's also doing Riverside Boulevard South, which will be at some point turned over to DOT. And anyway, we're just suggesting that you think of those organizations, make a list, and then over the next few months, start consulting with them.
when is that 2019 DNS?
We're going to come back with the DNS in May. We're gonna come back in May with the 2019.
What we just did is the 2019.
Yeah, we'll bring the 2019 to you. So, which is what we did last year. We brought it in, I think, in May. You reviewed it, you looked at it. In June, we came back and we made changes. It was written over the summer. We looked at statistics and whatnot. And then in the fall, you did your budget stuff. So you have until May to consult with whoever you want to consult with.
I thought of something for DCI, so you don't have to come tomorrow. The bids. They're probably.
That's the idea, if I may. The idea behind this, as Roberta was saying, is that we have a set of sources of information that we use to draw upon for both the district needs statement, because remember, district needs can be budgetary needs, or they can be needs that aren't really susceptible of a budgetary solution, but they might be, they're still needs and they should be addressed, whether it's legislatively or regulatory or whatever it might be. And the idea is to expand the number of people we're talking to. So you already, this committee already talks to the police department, for example, and that's obviously smart.
We talked to DOT, obviously.
And that's again. But are there other places we can look? And so the January invite to you all is: can you think of anybody who you're not currently talking to, who might identify any sources of needs and/or budgetary solutions that work with the priorities that you've already defined? That's kind of the idea. And then in the next couple of months, the idea would be that you use part of your agenda time to invite them to come consult with you, or however it works for your committee. That would be the ask with respect to this part of the DNS.
So maybe different. Maybe 6 more.
Right.
We can't hear you.
Yeah.
You're
She's
not
talking
saying
about
it's
Sam Schwartz.
awesome.
Sam Schwartz is quite a guy, yeah.
So anyway, that's just,
Yeah, okay. If everybody's doing it, we'll certainly do it. We've been doing it to a
no,
certain
you've
degree.
been.
Yeah.
Jump off that.
Yeah. All right, so you need us to identify potential groups and/or offices by when?
Let's put that on your agenda for a future meeting. And then
No, we were gonna start identifying it. So by February, you should have a list of organizations. I could send you some of them. How do they put the meeting? And then you can start inviting them to come, tell them to come for a 10 or 15-minute presentation.
And this is all budget related, I assume, right?
Well, this is just a meeting, so
Okay.
it could be safety related, it could be.
Well, I mean, technically, then you could go haywire and say, we want to contact all housing, apartment buildings to say who needs a new curb cut or something like that. I mean, we could really go crazy with this too.
And you can do it on a schedule.
Yeah, that too.
But you could make the decision that block associations are appropriate to your outreach. Not necessarily every block every year, but some thinking in terms of who don't you hear from.
We're trying to think out of the box.
Yeah.
We know the usual suspects come in, but and they're afraid. But it's also good to get some other people who might not.
Okay, we'll think about that.
So, how do you have an old business? Just a request.
Could you use microphone, please? It's on desk.
It's the fan too.
No, it's talking that way.
You gotta hold it down.
Push the left button so it's green, not red, unless that means the
The
battery's
battery's
dead.
dead.
I use the other one. Green.
Well, how would I do? It's on.
It's on.
Is it on? Okay, hi. I'd still like to.
Now, give it to me.
Yeah, you got that.
Now it's on.
I think I've said this 3 times in this. Street naming. Street naming is an issue that comes up. We put out guidelines. We never finished it. can we put on the agenda for next week, for next month, and finish this up?
And we have
Set
this,
that
what
draft?
we actually discussed and preliminarily approved, and we do have a proposal coming next month, so it is.
It would be great if we could vote on this before we do the proposal.
It would be good.
Yeah.
But
Can I see it?
But everybody take a quick look at it and see if this
Thank
is
you.
what you were told, because the person who's doing this for her mother, I don't believe has the requisite 100 signatures as of yet, and if they're gonna need that, then we're gonna have to tell them.
Well, it's the guideline, it's not a record.
I'd get rid of the mush in number one.
Well, first of all, this was,
So I get rid of the mush in number one.
Mush, oh, I like that.
secondary stagnant bush.
Mush, all right.
So this was, just to clarify,
So at the, was it the June or July meeting? There was a discussion of, I brought in 4 different guidelines for 4 different committee boards, and we went through them, and this was what everybody came up with, but we've never discussed it again.
The person had to have an untimely death. But I don't recall that one.
Yeah.
But a meaningful death, I don't know what that means. Where do you do?
untimely but meaningful, number 7.
I don't think that was worded right.
Yeah, that,
Okay.
that should be part of number 5 as an or.
Yeah, that's.
But number 6 does say or at the end, which looks like it's just floating out there.
So we're gonna put this on the agenda.
No, that was defined as 5.
What is it, meaningful death? I think it's a meaningful life. Well, the meaningful death, I assume means Ariel Versa.
Yeah, I know what it means.
So you just take out the phrase, and just said, had an untimely death that led to greater awareness, right?
That's better. Okay, everybody look this over and we'll finalize these next month.
Well, it's not proposed already, should we just go to vote? Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I'd like to review it actually.
Okay, we have to March, there's 6 people.
I would add that it's not at a busy intersection.
No, just cut the words. An untimely death that led to greater awareness.
So I would add that it's not on a busy intersection. Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna look these over and come up with any.
It also needs to be proofread. There are a bunch of small typos.
So take it with you and submit comments and.
Why don't you submit comments so next time when we bring it up, we can discuss with it.
Why don't you send me your comments up to the computer? I will email it to everybody on the committee and people can go on it. Maybe we have it for the people who are coming next time.
Want to vote on this at the next full board?
Because she's coming in February.
Well, nobody has disagreed with that requirement, so we
I would
certainly
tell her
cover
that
that.
that's extremely.
So maybe Penny could just tell us.
Yeah.
You're gonna do that.
Yeah.
So that's
And
gonna
we'll
be
vote
in
at the beginning.
And if there's a block association, either a resolution of them or something that says no objection or whatever.
All right, so I'll ask Penny to do that.
Yeah.
And then, what comments do you have?
Sounds like a special lady, but rules of the review. Okay. Susan, are we ready to continue with your presentation? We will move.
What? Or the other?
Still up.
Hold on.
It's my chrome.
We have to turn that. It's on again now.
Can you highlight that the last pedestrian injury there was November 2014?
That's what we're doing.
Exactly. But can you have that?
Like, my presentation is the covers again.
Now it's on.
Sorry, I would add it for context.
No, it's not, of course not.
Okay, well, I hope it helps prevent another pedestrian injury. Very much.
Yeah, let's keep it moving.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. This one has to go out, Roberta.
That's local.
Oh, that's local. Okay.
So here, two of this one's not working. Unless I don't have it turned on.
They were
Hold
both
the left
working.
hand button. Thank you. So here, two of the city bikers are going the correct direction, and the third one's not. He's heading the wrong direction. He's going uptown on Columbus Avenue. In a crosswalk. Thank you. This guy is waiting for the light to change, but he's standing in the middle of the crosswalk, heading westbound on 72nd and across Columbus. Just a reminder, everybody, these were taken during 1 5-minute time period in the morning. This city biker is blowing through the double red light. There's 2 red lights, as we all know, one for bikes and one for cars. He's about to collide with the senior citizen there in the pink shirt. She stopped before she got hit. Here, the biker is going through a red light, heading westbound. Here, the city biker is going through another double red light, heading southbound on Columbus Avenue, although I give him credit for being in the bike lane and traveling in the correct direction. You can see the delivery biker there. He stopped in the middle of the crosswalk on Columbus Avenue, just north of West 72nd Street, so he's not using the Columbus Avenue bike lane. So he's in the crosswalk, not in the bike lane. He is wearing a helmet, which is required by law, and he is wearing a vest. I can't tell from this angle whether or not you can read where he's from on the vest. Here, the same delivery biker, you can see him off to the left there. He's making an illegal right turn on red from the west side of Columbus Avenue. He's not in the bike lane, as I said. The good news is he's gotten out of the way of the school kids crossing the street.
Susan, next time you see someone like that, ask them for a menu.
Yeah.
Then you'll know where they're from.
Here, the delivery biker is going through a red light on West 72nd Street. He's heading uptown. Again, he's in the bike lane. He's going the wrong way, and he's not wearing a helmet. Another biker blowing through a red light. He's heading southbound to Columbus. At least he's in the bike lane. Here's another city biker blowing through the red light, heading south in Columbus. The good news is he's in the bike lane. The bad news is he's in danger of getting hit by cars turning left with the green arrow. So if you look ahead there, you can see the biking red light, but there's a left turn for the cars. Another city biker in the Columbus Avenue bike lane. He's blowing through the double red light and no helmet.
Helmets are not legally required.
Could you just hold your questions to one finish? Your comments too? Thanks.
What? Keep it going.
This guy's blowing through a double red light. He's heading southbound to Columbus Avenue, crossing West 72nd Street. Here's a city biker riding uptown on Columbus Avenue in the bike lane, about to turn east on West 72nd Street. The pedestrians who have to cross sign here will not expect a biker to be coming at them from this direction. This has happened to me quite a lot. You can see this guy, excuse me, you can see this guy right off to the far left of the screen. It's a different biker than this one, who's also turning the wrong way. Here are 2 city bikers swimming upstream. They're riding in the wrong direction. 2 wrongs do not make a right here. So what happens here often is they get on the bike, and then they're so excited to be on the bike, and they want to go across 70 seconds. They just head right uptown and do it. This shows the bikers going both ways in the bike lane. This is exactly why we did the Amsterdam Avenue bike lane, so people would not be going both directions like Columbus Avenue. What's really dangerous here for pedestrians is they're not expecting a biker to be coming uptown at them.
Are most of the people you see going the wrong way when you've been out there delivery people or private
People during the daytime. And I did not go out and take pictures at night. Once again, this is just during a 5-minute period in the morning. So at night, it's a totally different thing. This shows the bike chaos at the northeast corner. These guys, there's 3 of them, they're going every which way. here the delivery biker has a green light, but he's riding the crosswalk on the wrong side of West 72nd Street. He's heading against traffic, and he does not have a helmet or an ID vest, and both of those are required by law. The same delivery biker, he's pausing, which is great. He's not going to go through the red light, it looks like, for a minute, but he's doing it on the wrong side of the street, and he's in the middle of the crosswalk. And now he's changed his mind, and he's taken off, going against the red light.
Well, I just want to say, assuming he wasn't under 14 years old, that helmet is not required by law.
My understanding is that helmet's required for delivery bikers.
Not in, delivery bikers. Oh, delivery bikers.
Yeah, he's a delivery guy.
Okay.
So Vision Zero has done an awful lot. There's an article in the paper today about how it's really helped. They're focusing, as you guys all know, on 3 different things. There's no acceptable level of death and injury on the streets. Traffic deaths and injuries are not accidents, but crashes that can be prevented. And the public should expect safe behavior on city streets and participate in culture change. You know, I notice here that they are not distinguishing between any different class. You know, it's not like this applies only to bikers or only to car riders. It applies to everybody. Yeah. And so my concern here in general is that, you know, the bicyclists with their burgeoning numbers are not following laws. We've spent $8.1 million in 2015 to construct 45.5 miles of protected bike lanes citywide, but the lanes aren't always used by the bicyclists, and the transgressions by the bikers are rarely enforced by NYPD. I was standing in front of NYU Hospital about a month ago, down, you know, out of our district, with my husband, when a bicyclist rode past us on the sidewalk, and I was thrilled there was a cop standing right there. So I said to him, "Can you do something?" And he said, "No." I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, they get thrown out of court. We've been told not to do it. I mean, I'd really love to hear what
These officers who were here today made a point of saying riding on sidewalks is not allowed.
So I just do not understand why.
Well, maybe it does get thrown out.
There's a big problem there.
The answer to the question is neither of the above.
Snow removal in the bike lanes is obviously a challenge. I don't know what can be done about that, but I mean, the past snowstorm we had, who would want to ride in the bike lane when there's all this snow in it? So the plows are coming along and they're plowing the street, but they're not plowing the bike lanes. The average speed of a biker is 10 miles per hour. A pedestrian is 2.5 to 3 miles, and the e-bikes go almost 28 miles per hour, which is obviously above the 25 miles per hour speed limit in the city.
Yeah, where did you get that thing?
DOT website.
Yeah,
Well, certainly less than 25.
I'm sorry,
8.5.
I'm sure.
So let's talk fatalities, pedestrians versus bicyclists. The total number of people killed in New York City traffic crashes, pedestrians, bicyclists, motorcyclists, drivers, and passengers combined, decreased 2.1% from 234 in 2015 to 229 in 2016. This is across the entire city. This is from New York City DOT website. Pedestrian deaths, however, the largest share of fatalities accounted for 59% of the total deaths in 2015. Increasing from 139 in 2015 to 144. These deaths are from a combination of causes, mainly vehicles, but also bikes, okay? Bless you guys. In the same time period, there were only 14 biking deaths in 2015 and 18 in 2016. So the pedestrians are really in danger here.
Do you know how many of those fatalities were caused by vehicles and how many were caused by bikes?
I'm sorry, can you ask the question again?
You say it's mainly vehicles, but also bikes. Do you know how many pedestrian fatalities were caused by bikes? No.
And we try to get these things out of the PD. And, you know,
I specifically asked that
numbers,
question.
it's actually on that computer. No, but you just.
I have a feeling they don't want it.
So there's another thing that's been brought to public attention. There's a real issue with danger at dusk. The hourly average rate of severe pedestrian injuries and fatalities increased from 0.84 in August to 2.44 in mid-December. So when it's darker out, it gets really dangerous for the pedestrians. Pedestrian fatalities tripled from August to mid-December between 6 to 7 p.m. on weekdays. DOT
tripled from what to what?
From August to mid-December, they tripled.
So
at the same time of day, you're 3 times as likely to get injured in the dark.
At dusk.
But it's
at dusk in particular.
3 people, or is it right after those 300 people?
No, I'm asking, it says it tripled from August to mid-December. So we're saying that the average monthly fatality from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. in August compared to mid-December.
Goes from 0.84 to 2.44 from August to mid-December.
So the hourly average rate of severe pedestrian. Okay.
So DOT launched a $1.5 million dusk and darkness safety campaign in 2016 after the number of traffic fatalities increased from 177 to 192 in the prior year, an increase of 8.5%. The percentage of these fatalities involving pedestrians increased from 54 to 59% during this period. Most of the focus on this danger has been on cars versus bikers and pedestrians, with less focus on just bikers versus pedestrians. I mean, there's lots of different issues here, but the part that I'm concerned about is that it's bikers versus pedestrians that's not really being teased out and addressed. I mean, I think that so much has been done that's really good to protect bicyclists, but my concern is that the bicyclists aren't taking advantage of those protections by not riding in the bike lanes, and they're also, the pedestrians are really not being protected adequately from bikes. They're being protected from cars by reducing the speed limit, but there's a lot more that could be done.
Can you find data showing us that these fatalities are caused by bikes? Because if we know that, then...
Oh, citywide, we have the data. There have been 2 fatalities in the last 10 years caused by bikes, and I think it's 4-digit numbers, over 1,000 caused by cars. We have that data.
The data that I've got right here from the New York City Department of Transportation website doesn't specify what the injuries are, because I think very often what might happen is either somebody's scared, which doesn't get reported at all, which is valid. You know, the woman in the back was talking about how the senior citizens are scared to walk on the streets, and that's one of the things we heard at the Parks and Environment Committee meeting when we talked about moving the bike lane off of the Greenway, is that the senior citizens came out in droves to that committee meeting. They were terrified. But if you're injured, you might not, as a pedestrian, you might not call the police or do anything about it. But the injuries and fatalities tripled at dusk. That's all it's saying. Hunter College did a really interesting study in 2009. They focused on 1st to 10th Avenue and 14th to 59th Street from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. from April 2nd to April 28th. They surveyed 5,275 bike rides, bike trips. And what they did was the graduates and undergraduates went out as part of this study, and they observed what was going on at different time slots. It's a comprehensive study. There's too much to go into here. But the point was that they focused on Midtown Manhattan, as they described it. It's not our district. However, here are some select findings that were really interesting from the study. Basically, a large number of cyclists routinely disobey many traffic laws. 37% did not stop at a red light at all, and 49% didn't stop at night. 29% did not use a designated bike lane. That's pretty high. 13% rode against traffic, and another 4% rode with and against traffic. 73% had no head or tail light, and that is a New York City law.
I've seen that. That's scary.
That's terrifying where I live at the most high of death.
It's deadly for the biker, too.
Well, 71st and Broadway, where I live, at night, when they're coming at you every different direction, making deliveries without the lights, it's really scary. Only 27% of commercial cyclists showed ID on apparel or bikes as required by law, and another 12% had unclear ID. After dusk, 57% of cyclists were delivery riders versus 44% before dusk. 91% of all riders were male, and 99% of all commercial riders were male. Women are more likely to obey traffic laws, they found. And finally, 3.7% of what happened here.
Battery.
Everybody. Maybe, this is, we allotted 10 minutes. Could you email this presentation? Because,
Absolutely, I'm almost finished.
Okay, great.
Yes.
I'm actually, I don't know what we're getting to, so.
Yeah.
I might be getting to darkness on town. But what happens now?
So maybe you could just explain in the next minute or two what the.
I'd actually really appreciate it if I could just finish it. I put a lot of time and effort into this. I think that's only fair.
Yeah, I would like to see it too, but
if you could just give me a minute, it'd really be
Did
great.
the computer die?
I have no idea.
Oh, I know what happened. Okay. Yeah, so where's the power cord?
It's plugged in now.
Oh, great, okay. So just now we need to. Yeah, oh, it's not all the way in. That's why. Just edit this. Because you put it into the headphone jack. There we go. Oh, and it came right back to life. Isn't that nice? Okay. Log in again. Oh, there we go.
So illegal e-bikes, they are illegal. I'm still baffled by the distinction between whether or not you're allowed to own it or ride it or what the story is. They're all too common on the Upper West Side. They average 20 to 28 miles per hour, putting pedestrians at risk if the traffic regulations are not obeyed. A 2012 DOT estimate put the number of delivery cyclists in the city at 50,000. That's huge. And you can see here in front of Tanzania, and here's another thing. I love Tanzania. I was there last week for dinner. I stood right in front of this display of e-bikes. I think they've got like 6 or 8 of them, with a police officer, a traffic police officer. I said to him, "Can you explain to me why these are still here?" And he said, "I'm not a police officer. I can't bring it out yet." So, of course, no removal, as I mentioned before, in the bike lanes leads to bicyclists riding on the sidewalk and outside the bike lanes. So these are 2 programs that were undertaken by DOT. They're pretty cool. One is Don't Be a Jerk. Unfortunately, this one involved Mario Batali. They have Mario Batali, Paulina Frescoba, and some other celebrities demonstrating things you're not supposed to do. Commuter cycling increased 262% in New York from 2000 to 2010. So with more bikes on the road, the idea behind this program was that smart cycling is really crucial to making it safe for everybody. In 2011, they did Don't Be a Jerk, and they also did Smart Bike Pledge, which is a pledge that they online campaign ad campaign, get people to do this pledge that they'll do this stuff.
Do you know, or anybody here who's a city bike member know, if when you rent a city bike, it tells you, please observe all traffic laws and ride, you know, is there anything in when you rent a city bike?
So when you join as a member, they send you a booklet giving guidance on how to ride in the city and what the laws are.
There's a sign-up process, you have to click on the page.
I read from Perks all the time. I never been told to
But you've got a license would be taken away.
But you got a driver's license.
But you have a driver's license.
You got a driver's license. In order to get a driver's license, you have to agree. You have to learn. In order to be a citizen, there's a whole set of laws. We really need to get through this because we need to.
So here's, just to sum up, common and frequent. And there are 2 different words I use on purpose. These are common and they're frequent. I'm riding the wrong way against traffic, riding on the sidewalk. And last night, coming home from the main housing committee meeting, somebody else ran me over the sidewalk in front of my building on Broadway, and I said to the guy, "It's a sidewalk, not a side ride." And he said, "Mind your own business." Riding outside the bike lanes on Columbus and Amsterdam, ignoring red lights, illegal right turns on red, riding bikes in pedestrian crosswalks, no lights on delivery bikes, which are required, no IDs on delivery bikers, also required. Riding on paths in city parks, that's illegal. Bikers with headphones, that's illegal. And illegal e-bikes. So I've got some recommendations, but I would love to hear, what the committee thinks we can do about this. I think obviously adherence to traffic regulations by bicyclists. It's important for everyone to adhere to traffic regulations, whether it's a car or a taxi or a bus, or anything. I think we all should. We need to have enforcement by NYPD. The elimination of the e-bikes, which the police officers talked about tonight, is great. There's an educational opportunity here.
Speaking about e-bikes, does the BCI committee, when you're renewing a sidewalk cafe and or a liquor license, do you inquire as to whether they use e-bikes?
We inquire, we ask for photos of the bikes and the driver with the helmets. We have a record.
So
there are some restaurants that do not come with BCI.
What? That need nothing. Yeah. Yeah.
And we're trying to figure out a way to get them in, tell them, with the police department.
Given the length of the hour, can we listen to today's
I have one last thing to say. Thank you. And finally, the reason I'm here tonight is because I'd like to have a resolution voted on that the transportation study of bicycle behavior at CB7, because the Hunter College study was really great, but it was not in our district. I think it would really be fruitful to do that.
Many years ago, too.
Yeah, it was 2009, and things have changed a lot. So that's the reason I'm here, is I'd like to have a resolution voted on to.
Who would do the study?
Well, I mean, I have reached out to people who did the Hunter College study, and they'd be delighted to do something like this in our district. They're quite interested in it. But I have no idea. I don't know. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your work.
Well done.
Can you find out if it requires funding?
I'd be delighted to. But I'd like to get a resolution vote. I'd like to get a resolution voted on tonight to bring this before the full board and get approval to do some sort of transportation study.
So what would this entail exactly? Somebody to go out to virtually every place where bikers are and stay there for a period of time at all different times of the day. I'm just, what would be a legitimate study, I guess?
I don't know. I mean, it turns out to.
I think, I think they had a group of graduate students and undergrads who went out over a period of several months and collected data across that whole area. That's what it involved in principle in CB7.
Do you know if they did it in a particular season or over
They did.
several
They did it
seasons?
from April 2nd to April 28th in 2009. But I mean, I think, Howard, when DOT did all the studies for the biking lanes, how did they go about doing that?
DOT did it.
So,
right.
you
Well,
know,
DOT and the Borough President's Office, right? They went door to door to virtually every business on the proposed route.
And they studied the amount of traffic and the amount of lanes and the time of day versus, yeah, they did all of that.
But what is this? I thought you talked about it.
There was the Nelson Nygaard study, which is your corridor, that 97th Street corridor, and that came up with, that was actually 2012, I think. It's a while ago.
I didn't think it was that far ago, but okay.
I was here.
but for example, last month at the full board meeting, you did approval for a transportation study on Broadway.
Yeah.
How does that happen? So, you know,
It hasn't,
but we approved it. So
but
what's the
DOT
process?
has the resources to do that.
Right.
So one of the things we might want to know is, can they do that with a particular, so transportation studies would be all modes, and
But that's what we called for, actually. That was what the Broadway resolution was calling on an assessment of all these.
all modes. But if I'm hearing Susan correctly, she's proposing
District-wide.
Well,
Just bike.
but just bikes, yeah.
Bike, yeah.
But I don't know how
So-
that helps us. because-
So we need to get the feasibility questions answered, like, will DOT do it, do they have funding, let alone we will, and if not, how do we?
And what outcome would we want from it?
Well,
We know
no.
bikes are lawless. That's a given.
Many are, as Susan pointed out, but many are
Yeah,
not.
but I would say cars, motor vehicles are also lawless, and pedestrians are largely lawless. I think ultimately the outcome we want is to drive down the number of injuries. And we know that the injuries are caused by motor vehicles, not by cyclists. And yeah, we do. We've done a lot of work.
No, it's a pedestrian deaths accounting for 59% of total deaths in 2015 and 63% in 2016.
Yeah, and they're all caused by motor
They're all
vehicles.
caused by cars, yeah.
There were
But that doesn't capture injuries by bicycle.
no,
None
but
of this data captures injuries.
the
by
police
bicycle.
data does.
No, it
Yes,
doesn't
it
capture
does.
injuries.
Yes, it does.
It captures fatalities.
Incorrect.
But assuming that it's roughly proportioned, out of a couple of thousand pedestrian deaths, 2 were caused by bicycles. So assuming those are the rough proportions for increasing as well.
And every conversation I've had with the
Questioning
the leadership at the PD that is in charge of data, looking at the data, there are a very small number of injuries caused by bicycles. And yeah, but if it's a serious injury, it's going to get reported. So if someone gets a bruise, they might not report it. We have 400 to 500 injuries in our district every year, and they're caused by cars.
I think, I thank you, Susan, for this presentation. And I think we can look at bike ridership and kind of know, and maybe we can start asking some of the community groups of what we're talking about before, the block associations, some of the other groups, where they're seeing problem bike riding, and then maybe work with DOT on a campaign to get bike riders and businesses start
I've been trying to get City Bike to come here to talk about various city bike issues. Very tough.
City Bike removed the bike rack that we asked them to remove on 64th Street in front of Mill to the line.
And put it back.
And put it back December 22nd.
I know, and Colleen has said that was a mistake and she's going to take care of it. And that we're all supposed to go out with Amsterdam editions and show them where we recommended they
Where
put it.
they have.
I know.
So, I mean, I think part of it is pedestrian bad behavior. I mean, just
Oh, there's
one more
definitely
person walks
pedestrian
into me on a sidewalk. My problem is not bikes walking into me. It's people, and it's not people with their phones. It's people just walking and not looking.
Okay, but if I have to say, a person walking at 3 miles an hour is really different from a bicyclist at 10 miles an hour, or an e-bike at 28
No,
miles an hour.
it's true.
So,
Wait.
but the point is, I mean, my point here is that everybody's entitled to safety. And I think what I'm trying to highlight here is just one slice of the pie, and I don't see any harm in doing a study like the Hunter College study in our district to see what the actual data is.
No, I mean,
Okay, so wait, can I actually say something from the minutes? From the minutes. The police, Sergeant Montgomery told us that there were 86 pedestrians harmed that were in accidents. 5 of those 86 pedestrians involved bikes. There were 58 bike accidents. 1 involved an e-bike. Bike accidents were bike on bike or bike hitting pothole. They're themselves.
What's interesting is that this data does not jive with the Hunter College stuff. Now it's a different district.
It's 8 years difference.
Totally different. But
And there are bike lanes and Hunter College have bike lanes that do
But right now, what's going on is a different phenomenon, which is that the number of bicyclists has exploded. I think we can all agree on that.
And I'm shocked that there are only 5 active pedestrians.
This is 27.
This is a wonderful thing. Would 5 for instance make cars? Do you think that would be
Totally grateful that I'm watching. What I'm seeing, I think other people might see it as well, is that the bicyclists are not adhering to the law. I'd like to document that and get actual data of what's going on so we can diagnose the problem and see. And I could
not agree with you more. There are limited resources.
They're not.
And
My sentence.
wait, I haven't finished my sentence. Okay, there are limited resources. There are a lot of fatalities on one side of the ledger, and there are many, many fewer fatalities on the other side of the ledger. When we look at it in terms of actual literal harm by accidents or by percentages. The bikes are not the big bad problem here. The big bad problem that's really hurting people are cars. Yes, the bikes are a problem, but the big bad problem is this, and there's limited resources.
I disagree with you.
Well, the
But
fact
it
of
goes
the
back
fact,
to with me.
it's under 1%. So
That is reported, we have to do it.
That's reported to the police.
Reported
So
to
each
the
time I
police.
almost get hit by a bike, it's
Wait,
not
you
reported.
almost.
That's the game tonight.
I dodge out of the way.
No, I think
that's
most,
where-
I think can I say something? Can I say something? I think that most people who have either run-ins or near misses with bicyclists don't report it.
Absolutely.
No, I understand, but you're relying on data that is consistently unreported.
Okay, we've lost control. I have to make an announcement. There is no water in the bathroom. So if you need to use the bathroom, don't.
Plan ahead.
Okay, 2 more comments and then we're, yeah.
I know you put a ton of work into that, and I really, I just wanted to, I looked up, the previous basic, and I don't know how much you can say a lot about them. In 2012 and 2015, there were 8 pedestrian injuries, so every 4.5 months, a pedestrian injury at 90 miles. In 2015, 2017, not a single pedestrian injury. So something is working.
Okay,
It's called, excuse me, it's called vision zero. It's not called vision only 40. Whatever. Thank you.
Sometimes we react to things and sometimes we try to prevent things from happening. I think what Susan's saying is, let's get an education, people educated to prevent the possibility, however small compared to cars.
but again, we're in an environment with our limited
If I could just.
Yep.
Maybe,
one
maybe
more
not,
comment.
we don't know what the resources are.
And I've been snappish to Susan in this conversation, and for that I do apologize, because I've been snappish.
Good word.
Yeah, I think I have. And the fact of the matter is, we all agree that bicyclists need better education, they need to follow the rules. I don't disagree with that. Well, I disagree with the tone of the presentation, but let's set that aside, because I've acknowledged I was snappish about it. To say that we need more education, great, totally in support of that. Do we need to change the laws? Yes. Why should bikes have to wait for a full red light? That's ridiculous. However, that's the law today.
I'm sorry, you think the bikes shouldn't have to wait?
Wait,
Can I
let her
finish?
finish.
But that's
Some
okay.
laws need to
That's
be
not what we're
changed.
talking about right now. The law should be, thought about, because that's not the issue. The issue is education and compliance. And in any way that we, and I'm speaking to the committee, I think I can here, can get great fresh ideas on getting people to comply and get them educated. I'm open to it, you should be open to it, and once again, sorry I was snappish. Didn't like it.
I would also say we should think about, you have a long list of behavior. I think we need to think about which of those behaviors are the biggest concerns. And I think that enforcement is extremely difficult. And what happens is the precincts crack down on riders who are not going fast because they're easier to catch without getting the ones who are blowing through a pack of pedestrians as they're going through a light. And I think that we need to make sure that whatever actions we're calling for have the ultimate goal of driving down the number of injuries in our district. And I think some of them will do that, some of them don't. And we need to be really thoughtful about what behaviors we have an ability to impact and what behaviors will have an impact that achieves our ultimate goal.
Well, I think you can email your presentation to all of us, and we'll continue to think about it. And right, you see what we're going through there.
Yep. I mean, if we're able to get more detailed statistics from the 2.0 and the 2.4, which is what? I think we are. I think they seem to be okay with giving us more detail.
Okay,
Well, they just didn't have it with them, they said.
If the Hunter College people were going to go out and do a study in our district, you guys just have to do
I wouldn't have a problem with it.
We
I wouldn't have a problem with it at all.
That were all from a different community. We really need to compare results.
They want to do this community, God bless them.
I would want them to look at motor vehicles as well. If they're going to be doing a study in the district,
Find some other money for the college. She wants the bikes.
Yeah, walk on. Have a great time.
you know, my fear is that we're conditioning people to fear.
No, I guess I walk around all the time. I'm trying to you spend on the bike. You spend a lot of time on the bike, right?
I have kids. I do all three. I have a car.
I spend a lot of time walking. I see a lot of
So,
concerned about the pedestrian safety.
so you're statistically at an extraordinarily greater risk of getting injured or killed by a car. And there's no disputing that. So we have a lot of people in the community who are scared of bikes. And the number of times I've heard people talk about almost getting hit by a bike, the word almost is almost always part of the conversation. And the people who are getting injured badly enough that they're reporting it to the police, the people who are getting killed are being injured and killed by motor vehicles. It's indisputable. And
that's not what the data showed, but it's admittedly it's
what data?
It's 60% of. Thank you for your comment.